I want to share every single dream exactly as they happened. This is part of my legacy. Upon my passing, this record will exist for psychologists and researchers to study a genuine, long-term twin flame dynamic that was not fabricated. I am being as transparent as possible while protecting identities. These dreams began around February 2nd or 3rd, 2012, right when Neptune entered Pisces. Dream number 1, February 2nd, 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame came by my house, and we talked on the porch. He was such a gentleman. He did not come all the way up the porch stairs but had one foot on the porch step and one foot on the porch. We were both 40 years old. The porch was very large and made of concrete, and the color of the porch was baby blue. I knew he liked me. As he talked and bragged about himself, I thought, how cute it is that he is trying to impress me. He went on and on about his music career and how it all works. I was very interested because I love music. He finally gained the confidence to invite me to be with him to see how it all works. At the studio he showed me around and demonstrated how the equipment worked. I was so delighted to have this music man courting me in the good, clean, old-fashioned way. I thought, these men are rare. And then I awoke. Dream number 2, February 3rd, 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were courting, and he was becoming very serious about our relationship. We were both 40 years old. We were at a party, and the room was formal, clean, and white. As I looked at my twin flame from across the room, I thought, why do I keep resisting him? He is perfect for me. He is just my size. It was at that moment that I decided to give in to my twin flame the next time he wanted to take our courtship to the next level. And then I awoke. Dream number 3, February 4th, 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were a couple. He was getting ready for an appointment or a tour or something similar. We were both 40 years old. His advisors and crew were all with him. We were leaving an office building room. As we headed for the door, I reached down to pick up something for the trip, but just before I did, my twin flame handed me a package to hold for him because he was doing something else. Even though my hands were already full, I gladly stopped what I was doing to be there for my man. And then I awoke. Dream number 4, February 6, 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were a happy married couple doing everyday things such as eating and shopping together. We were both 40 years old. He was a dream come true. And then I awoke. Dream number 5, February 7, 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were married. In this dream, my twin flame was shooting a video. We were both 40 years old. A black helicopter with a mounted camera and a small white airplane with a camera were both recording the scene. The setting appeared to be a busy gray highway, and I saw subway cars and trains nearby. In the video, my twin flame and I were riding a black motorcycle down the road. I looked back and saw the helicopter filming us. I also saw people in their vehicles watching the production take place. The airplane eventually had to stop and pull back, because it could not follow the helicopter under the bridge tunnel. I was so excited to be on the back of the motorcycle with a famous A-list celebrity. After the filming, my twin flame decided to take me to meet his family for the first time. He pulled over and had me sit in front of him because he wanted to teach me how to drive the motorcycle. However, I was too afraid, so he pulled over again and allowed me to return to the back seat. As we neared his relative's house, I noticed the long, sandy-colored road. When we arrived at the home of an elderly female family member, I saw a small, smoky gray, country-like cottage with plants around it. His family began coming out to greet him, and some were just arriving. Unfortunately, they did not warm up to me because I was different from what they expected. My skin pigmentation was ebony in color. I reached out to shake their hands with a friendly smile, but they would not touch me or smile back. I continued to maintain politeness and kindness toward them throughout the entire visit. My twin flame tried his best to comfort me during such an awkward moment. I assured him that I would be fine and encouraged him to continue visiting with his family. I told him to give them time. They were from a generation where this type of marriage was unacceptable. I forgave them and believed that one day they would have a more open mind. Although I comforted my twin flame with those words, inside, without showing it, I was very sad. My twin flame and I had a small chocolate brown spaniel-type puppy with us as we sat in the house with his family. The living room was dark and blackish in color. The puppy gave me hints that it needed to go outside. I saw this as the perfect opportunity to step away from the uncomfortable atmosphere. I took the puppy outside to let him relieve himself and to feed him, and immediately my twin flame followed behind me. He did not leave me alone even once. He knew I felt uncomfortable, and he chose to stay right by my side. I remember that I was wearing one of my red exotic ethnic outfits. And then I awoke. Dream number 6, February 9, 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were newlyweds and settling into our first two-bedroom apartment together. We were both 40 years old. We had just moved in and had already unpacked everything for the master bedroom. The master bedroom was extremely large and spacious. We were very happy and proud. We both began wondering what to do with the second bedroom. I suggested turning it into a guest room for his family when they came to visit. My twin flame suggested turning it into a nursery. I walked down the long hallway to the spare bedroom and looked inside. It had been previously owned and still contained several items that needed to be thrown out. One thing I noticed was a very old antique brown and beige radio with wires running out the window to a large speaker on the balcony. Apparently, the previous owner had wired the light switch to the radio. When I turned on the light switch for the first time, the radio suddenly began playing. It was late at night, and I became very worried that the neighbors would hear the music blasting from the large speaker outside. I panicked and kept trying to switch it off, but it malfunctioned and grew even louder. I ran to the old radio and tried to find the off button, but it was so old that the buttons and knobs were broken off. I moved the dresser back to try to unplug the radio. The plugs were extremely outdated, overloaded, and a fire hazard. Even after unplugging everything, the music still did not stop. I tried pulling on the speaker wires, tapping the radio on the floor, and everything else I could think of. Nothing worked. Then my twin flame came into the room. As soon as I saw him, I said his name in distress and explained what had happened. My twin flame, being the music man he is, calmly reassured me. He bent down, did something to the wires or the connections, and the extremely loud music stopped. I had been sweating and panicking, but once my twin flame entered the room, I felt safe and comforted. What a man, I thought. He protects and loves me. And then I awoke. Dream number 7, February 10, 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were married. We were both 40 years old. We were standing outside at a late-night social event. The sky was dark, but the event itself was bright and joyful. My twin flame was wearing dark shades, a hat, and a nice casual matching pants and jacket set with artistic patterns, designs, and shapes. His face seemed to be glowing. Out of nowhere, he slowly leaned toward my face, tilted his head, and pressed his lips against my lips, kissing me softly. Then he went right back to socializing. I stood there happy as ever and completely numb. And then I awoke. Dream number 8, February 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were a happily married couple. We were both 40 years old. We were guests in someone's house. My twin flame wanted to cuddle, but I stopped him because I felt it was inappropriate to do that in someone else's home. He complied. Later that afternoon, my twin flame took me to an auction. He went in first and saved me a seat. When I walked in, I saw a large room filled with people. Rows and rows of folding chairs were set up, and the auction had already started. I saw my twin flame and the chair he had saved for me. He was wearing a baseball cap and had his leg crossed in the manly style. I walked over to him from behind, put my arms around his neck, and said, "Thank you." He seemed shocked and said, "Thank you. I am the one who should be thanking you for putting up with a man like me." My twin flame felt that he was not good enough for me, but I felt he was perfect for me. He had some insecurity issues. Suddenly I heard the auctioneer say, "And now we have a doll that belonged to my twin flame's grandmother. The starting bid is $11. Before he could finish his sentence, I immediately jumped up and yelled, "I will take it." My twin flame and others laughed hysterically. The auctioneer laughed at my quick response. I quickly walked up to get the doll. The doll was a Caucasian doll in a pretty lime green dress with a very long family name stitched across the front. I cuddled the doll and smiled, because it had belonged to my twin flame's beloved grandmother. When I returned to my seat, he wondered why I would want an old doll. I explained that it was not just an old doll. It was a family heirloom, something that was a part of him. I was very proud of that doll. My twin flame just shook his head and smiled. Then I awoke. Dream number 9, February 2012. I dreamt that I went to my twin flame's concert for the very first time. We were both in our 40s. My twin flame was a famous celebrity, and I was his fan. He gave me a backstage pass. I watched him from the perfect backstage view. There were many bright lights, and the curtain was red. My twin flame's piano was black. He had white hair and wore a special hat that resembled a Shriner's hat, although it was his normal stage hat. He was wonderful. As I watched him perform, I noticed that he turned away from the crowd and looked straight at me, smiling. This was an unusual smile. It seemed like a flirt. Then he continued singing. Again, he turned around and glanced at me in a very flirtatious way, smiling. This time I knew there was something more to that look. I blushed and hid behind the curtain. My heart was beating fast. I slowly peeked back out from behind the stage curtain and continued watching my twin flame perform. When he saw me come back out from behind the curtain, he kept giving me those little inconspicuous flirtatious glances. He did this repeatedly throughout his performance. I thought, surely he is not flirting with me. I thought he was homosexual. Then I awoke. Dream number 10, March 2012. I dreamt that I was at my twin flame's concert. He and I were both around age 44. He was a famous celebrity, and I was his fan. I had a backstage pass that he had given me. After the concert, as he and his crew walked through the backstage area toward their limousine, my twin flame and his lyricist both pointed at me and began talking to each other. Then they waved and signaled for me to come with them. I thought they were simply waving at me as a fan, but they waved again and motioned for me to follow. I looked around, thinking they were pointing at someone behind me, but they were pointing at me. I was shocked. I walked toward them and followed as they headed to the limousine. My twin flame placed his hand on my shoulder and invited me to join his crew and tour with him. I agreed. There I was, with a legend and his famous lyricist, getting into a limousine. My twin flame took me out to eat to explain how everything worked and what my responsibilities would be. He hired me to work closely with him, almost like a personal assistant. However, from the way he looked at me and from his actions, his intentions seemed to be more than professional. Then I awoke. Dream number 11, March 2012. I dreamt that I traveled back to the 1980s when my twin flame was married to his former wife. My twin flame was wearing a black suit with a black top hat and black framed glasses. His former wife was wearing a white jumpsuit. They were a beautiful couple. What a lucky woman, I thought to myself. I was sitting on the couch beside my twin flame on his right side. His former wife was sitting on his left side. I knew I was from the future. The dream was in black and white, but I was the only one in color. When my twin flame got up and walked to the other side of the room, I told his former wife that she was the luckiest woman on earth. To my surprise, she smiled and said, with shock, "Oh wow, I have never heard that before." As she and I continued to talk, my twin flame walked up and politely stood at a distance, waiting for us to finish. Then his former wife and I said our goodbyes, and she left with my twin flame. As I watched them walk away, I thought, my twin flame's former wife and I have many things in common. We are both Pisces, we are both sound engineers, and our names both have or had the exact same name in them. Interesting. Then I awoke. Dream number 12, March 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame and I, along with an interviewer, were sitting at a pub table. The interviewer asked my twin flame if fans ever tried to grab his personal belongings off of him as a memento. As they talked, I was mesmerized by the rings on my twin flame's hands. My twin flame noticed me looking at them. At first he grabbed the huge diamond cluster ring. Then he said, "That is too expensive," removed a reddish handcrafted ring from his finger, and placed it in my hand. I was so happy. I placed the ring on my right middle finger. Then I reached out, hugged my twin flame's neck, and thanked him. I preferred the handcrafted ring to the huge diamond ring. And then I awoke. Dream number 13, March 2012. I dreamt that I was walking with my twin flame and my twin flame's lyricist in their country. They showed me all the places where they grew up. My twin flame's lyricist showed me several sites and explained how they had inspired some of his lyrics. He showed me a garden. Then he showed me a 4-story beige stone building. He pointed to the very top floor apartment. The balcony was covered with plants. My twin flame showed me a field and some of the places from his childhood. He showed me the house he grew up in his hometown. I was so happy. I thought, I can finally ask my twin flame's lyricist about some of the hidden cryptic meanings in his lyrics that I have wondered about for all of these years. And then I awoke. Dream number 14, April 2012. I dreamt that my twin flame was a special guest at my house with my family. This was not the abusive family I grew up with. The family in this dream was a new, kind, perfect family. My twin flame and I were both in our 40s. He was a famous celebrity, and I was a fan. I went into the guest room to make sure all of his needs were met. I sat down and began to socialize with him. He seemed to enjoy my company and was very happy, perhaps a little too happy, if you know what I mean. I noticed that he kept telling me jokes and flirting with me. He would laugh and gently tap my leg with the back of his hand, as if to say, "You know what I mean," or, "You get it." I finally asked him, "Are you flirting with me?" He denied it at first. Then we continued talking. He began sharing with me how he made it big. As he talked, he started slyly tapping my leg with the back of his hand again, as if he wanted to make sure I understood the point of his story. Oh, I understood the point. I smiled and politely said, "Stop flirting with me." He seemed embarrassed and calmed down. Then he changed the subject, opened his suitcase, and showed me some of his stage outfits. I was very excited to finally see some of those famous outfits up close. He was very happy that I spent time with him. And then I awoke. Dream number 16, April 2012. I dreamt that I was at my twin flame's concert. Other fans and I were invited on stage while my twin flame played. While everyone danced and gathered close to him, I took out my camcorder and filmed his guitarist and his drummer. There was a part in the song where my twin flame's drummer did not play, so as I filmed him, he smiled at me and said, "I am just sitting here waiting on my cue to play." He seemed to enjoy the camera. Then I filmed my twin flame's guitarist. He was standing there in his cool shades, leaning against something. It appeared that he was also waiting for his cue to play. He nodded at me. I was wearing one of my clothing designs inspired by my twin flames outfits. It was white with little black grand pianos all over it. I looked over at my twin flame playing his piano and began filming him. He seemed to be watching me with curiosity. And then I awoke. Dream 2013. I dreamt that I was at a social party. I was in my 40s, and my twin flame was 66. I was his fan, and he was a famous celebrity. Out of nowhere, my twin flame, the A-list celebrity, entered the room. Everyone became excited to see him and hoped he would talk to them. To everyone's surprise, including mine, my twin flame took notice of me. He walked past all of the other guests and famous celebrities, came right up to me, gave me a sideways hug, and said thank you. He was thanking me for writing the children's book dedicated to him and for how much I supported him. As he hugged me, I felt energy where his body touched mine from the sideways hug. It was electric and strong. I had never felt energy like that before. It was so powerful that I woke up still feeling it. Then I suddenly woke up feeling high as a kite. Dream 2014. I dreamt that my twin flame was a famous celebrity, and I was his fan. He took his single diamond earring out of his earlobe and gave it to me as a gift. I was so honored. I removed my original earrings and placed the diamond earring my twin flame had given me into one of my earlobes. And then I awoke. Dream December 2014. I dreamt that my twin flame and I were friends. He was a famous celebrity, and I was his fan. And then I awoke. After a while, I stopped writing down the dreams because they were happening so often. There are times when I feel what is going on in his body before he becomes ill. There are times when I smell him, feel him, or see him in visions while awake. The dreams where my twin flame makes love, or, as I call it throughout the upcoming dreams, goes into sacred union with me, are too intimate to share. I am fully aware that intimate dreams are not always to be taken literally. I am sure they are mostly symbolic. He and I meet in dream states many times. Sometime in 2014, I had a dream in which my twin flame was a famous celebrity, and I was standing off stage watching him perform. There was a huge crowd gathered, and he was playing his grand piano. I stood to his left, just off stage. He looked exactly as he did around 1987, and in the dream we were in a dating-type relationship. We were the same age. While he played, he looked over toward me. Even from the stage, he could still see me clearly. He motioned for me to come closer. I did not want to, but he insisted, so I walked over to him. As soon as I stepped into view, the entire crowd began cheering and clapping. They seemed to know I was his lady, but I still felt shy. He patted the piano stool beside him, signaling for me to sit down. I did. Then he gently lifted me and set me across his lap while he continued to play. The crowd roared with excitement. He looked so proud to have me there with him. I would have preferred to stay backstage, but it touched me deeply that he cherished me enough to bring me into the spotlight. And then I awoke. Dream around 2014. I dreamt that I saw my twin flame's two little boys waving and smiling at me from a yacht-like boat, with my twin flame beside them. And then I awoke. Dream 2013. No matter where I move, he always finds a dwelling place. In the dream, the setting was not symbolic or abstract, it was the actual room I was renting at that time. The roommates were treating me terribly, discriminating against me and bullying me. My twin flame walked in and sat on the real bed I owned during that period. He sat right on the edge of it, looked at me with deep concern, and asked, "Are they still bullying you?" His tone was protective, almost worried. I woke up immediately. I sat straight up in my real bed and looked toward the exact spot where he had been sitting in the dream. No one was there. I crawled over to the edge of the mattress and touched it, checking to see if it was warm. It felt normal. That was the spot he had been sitting in, but in waking life, it was empty. Dream 2013. The day before this dream, I had been listening to Billy Joel's music instead of my usual twin flame music. I went to sleep, and that is when my twin flame came into my dream. In the dream, I was walking across an indoor hallway. I had just come up the stairs to reach that hallway. When I stepped onto the floor, I saw beautiful gold stair rails and a shiny floor. It felt like the entrance to a ballroom. The building was large, elegant, and had tall gold ceilings. Suddenly, I heard music playing. It sounded like my twin flame singing. I looked to my left. On a deck slightly lower than where I was standing, about 8 feet away, was my twin flame. I could see him playing a beautiful black baby grand piano. He looked exactly as he did in his early 1970s era. He lifted his eyebrows in a cute, playful, fast, repetitive motion, almost like little eyebrow push-ups. It was the closest thing to a flirtatious wink. While smiling at me, he said, "Did you forget about me?" He kept playing the piano while looking at me gently, still smiling. And then I awoke. This dream made me chuckle. It felt as if he was a little jealous that I had been listening to Billy Joel instead of him. Dream 2013. In 2013, I dreamt that my twin flame and I were in a loving married relationship. One day, during the daytime, we shared a deep, passionate sacred union. When he finished, he stood up to go to the washroom. As he stood, I noticed that on the tip of his scepter there was a round black dot, the size of a pupil. Then I awoke. I immediately reached for my pencil and paper and wrote the dream down. I had no idea what it meant. I went back to sleep. For a second time, the dream repeated itself. We were a very happily married couple. Just like the first dream, we shared a passionate sacred union during the day, on the same bed. When he finished and stood up to go to the washroom, I saw the black dot again, but this time it was on the family jewels. I woke up, wrote the dream down, and realized that since it had happened a second time, something was trying to get my attention. I went back to sleep a third time. For the third time in a row, the same dream repeated itself exactly like the previous two. The house, the bedroom, and the bathroom were all identical. We were a very happy married couple, and we had shared a passionate union. After he finished, he got up to go to the washroom. I followed behind him. When I walked into the washroom, he was standing in front of the bathroom sink and the mirror above it. The vanity was to the right as you walked in. The mirror was large and hung over the sink. He stood in front of it. After I walked all the way into the bathroom and past him, I turned to my right to look at him. This time, the black dot was on his face, below his eye but above his jawline. And then I awoke. I wrote the dream down. I said to myself, okay, this is the third time this dream has happened. In all 3 dreams, the bedroom was exactly the same. I could still see the same curtains, the same dresser, the same bed in the same spot. Everything was in the exact same place. The bathroom was in the same place. Where we came into union was the same place. I knew the dream was repeating itself. Surely the universe was trying to get my attention, but about what? Since this was the first dream I ever had that repeated itself 3 times in a row, I decided to contact a psychic medium. The medium explained that the dream was a premonition dream. She said that my twin flame and I are so spiritually linked that I have the ability to see things that are going to happen to him in the future, and the dream was a warning. A few years after having this dream, in real life, my twin flame revealed that he had been diagnosed with a poisoned wellspring. Fortunately, it was removed in time. When I first read about this in 2025, I immediately thought about this dream. It does indeed sound like a premonition dream. Then again, it could be a coincidence. Many men experience this issue. The only thing I still cannot figure out is why the black dot moved to his face, the area below his eye but above his jawline. If that part was also a premonition, what could it mean? Dream, December 2014. In December 2014, I dreamt that my twin flame and I were sitting in a truck talking. I knew I was having a past life dream, so I took advantage of the moment. I told him the name of my favorite song on his entire album. I knew he had not written the lyrics, but the way he sang that song, and one other, touched me in a very special way. I then said to him, I was wondering, do you recall what was going on with you during the production of those songs? Were you tapping into your subconscious, or did you have anything to do with telling your lyricists the type of song you wanted them to write? Before I could finish my sentence, my twin flame began smiling and started to tell me what had been going on with him during the production of those two songs. But right as he began speaking, I suddenly awoke. I was so disappointed that the dream cut off during such an important conversation. I finally had the chance to ask my twin flame about my favorite song he sings. It just so happened that, my favorite one, was playing on my iPod when I awoke. In the dream, my twin flame was in his late 30s, and I was 42. He looked exactly as he did in 1985. He was wearing his boater hat and no glasses. When my twin flame and I meet in dream states, he appears to me at different ages and in different looks. Dream, 2016-2017. I dreamt that I was back in the foster home from hell where I grew up, the place where the foster parents were abusive to me. Normally, when I dream of that house, it is always a recurring nightmare from the childhood abuse I survived. But thanks to my twin flame, those nightmares rarely come through the way they used to. In this dream, the famous twin flame was my boyfriend. I was around 37 or 38 years old. Even though I was an adult, the foster family was still being cruel to me, mocking me, laughing at me, and deliberately making me feel like an outsider. The same things they did when I was a helpless little girl. Even as an adult, I still felt powerless because of the complex post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD). Then the doorbell rang. I went to the door, opened it, and to my surprise, it was my twin flame. His luxury celebrity motorhome tour bus was parked in front of the house, and his bodyguards and personal assistants were waiting on standby. He was traveling for a tour and decided to pass through my little hometown to give me a surprise visit. My twin flame looked about 40 years old, as handsome as ever, just like he did during the 1987-1988 era. He smiled at me and gave me a gentle kiss. I felt high as a kite that my famous boyfriend had come to see me despite his busy schedule. I invited him inside. He sat down on the couch with me, and we started talking. I knew he could not stay long, so I cherished every moment. What struck me most was how the foster family reacted. These people who had been cruel to me my entire upbringing suddenly became afraid of my twin flame being there. They seemed nervous, overly polite to him, and overly nice to me. They would not come near me because my twin flame was sitting beside me. It was as if they knew he was there to protect me. The entire time my twin flame and I talked, laughed, and looked at his tour photos, no one in that house dared approach me. My twin flame gave me a few souvenirs from his world tours. I felt safe and happy with him there. When he was present, the house did not feel scary anymore. It did not feel like a place of torture. It was as if the house itself disappeared. All I knew was that my twin flame was protecting me, smiling at me, and we were in love. No one from that foster family dared enter the parlor the entire time. His visit caught me completely off guard because I was ashamed of the foster family I lived with. I had previously told my twin flame how they treated me. Maybe that was why he came unannounced, to make it clear to them that I was loved and cherished. I wanted to show him my childhood bedroom. As I led him down the long hallway, the foster family stayed far away, visibly nervous. They did not come near me because they knew my guardian was there. I was able to walk into that childhood bedroom, the same bedroom that had always been a place of horror for me as a little girl, where I had been beaten and molested. But I could enter it because I was not alone. My guardian angel was with me. I showed my twin flame my bed with the 1980s Ghostbusters cartoon comforter, sheets, and pillowcases. I showed him my artwork and the songs I wrote. He was genuinely intrigued and wanted to know everything about me. We walked back into the parlor and talked and laughed a little longer. Then he had to go. As he walked out the door, he turned, kissed me, and said he would call me. It was the most beautiful thing that had ever happened in that house. The only time there was ever joy in that place was when he was there. And then I awoke. I do not know what the dream means, but I will forever treasure my twin flame for helping rewrite the script of that house of horrors. In 2018, I became involved with a group that presented itself as a religious organization but operated as a cult. They bullied and harassed me for who I was, seized control of my bank accounts and cards, confiscated my personal documents, military records, and identification, and forced female members into compounds where they endured physical and sexual abuse. At the time, I had just purchased a new home, but I was told women could not own property and was coerced into surrendering it. They preached that women living alone would face eternal damnation and could only be saved by a man. Note added in 2026, people often sensed an innocence and vulnerability in me that stemmed from what I now understand as mosaic Down syndrome, a diagnosis I received later. This made me particularly susceptible to predators at the time. Brainwashed by their doctrines, I was pressured to abandon my vegan lifestyle. When I refused to eat meat, they provided no accommodations, and I lost significant weight. Yet I refused to submit. Drawing on the same strength I had used to survive abusive guardians in childhood, I spoke up and fought back. When the leaders realized I would not comply, they drove me to a random hotel, left me there with only one night paid, and vanished. With no immediate access to money, I was stranded. I canceled my cards, reached out for help, and was eventually rescued through the kindness of others. Meanwhile, cult members posted slanderous content online, including a YouTube video titled, "Exposed," condemning me as an abomination for writing a children's book that promoted love, compassion, and acceptance regarding my twin flame's sexuality. I lost nearly everything. With the help of a compassionate landlord who allowed me to stay rent-free until my next payment, I began rebuilding my life in a small apartment. The trauma left me with agoraphobia, which I still manage today. I legally changed my name, chose a life of relative seclusion, and began wearing a veil in public for protection. To this day, I live with religious trauma syndrome. My healing has come through spiritual meditation, therapy, and the comfort of my therapy baby dolls. During my time in the cult, the dreams of my twin flame had been completely suppressed. The very first dream I had after escaping, in my new apartment, was profoundly significant. I dreamt in black and white. My twin flame appeared exactly as he looked during his 1987-1988 era, impeccably tailored suit, tie, Clark Kent-style glasses, and signature banker-style hat. He stood before a tall building with two large, beautiful glass doors. Opening his arms wide with a warm smile, he said gently, "Welcome back." Then I awoke. Reflection. I felt deeply comforted. In my darkest hour, when everyone else had betrayed or abandoned me, my twin flame appeared. The religious brainwashing had silenced those connections while I was trapped, but the moment I escaped, he was there, welcoming me home. This dream reaffirmed the profound spiritual bond we share beyond the physical world. Important disclaimer: this dream is entirely symbolic and not to be taken literally. It has no reference to the real-life actions, feelings, or circumstances of the celebrity who appears as my twin flame. The imagery represents inner psychological, emotional, and spiritual dynamics, particularly themes of return, safety, and soul-level support during times of crisis. Dream 2013. In 2013, during a period when I was renting a room and living with roommates who were bullying me, while also dealing with privileged female landlords who took advantage of my mental challenges, my twin flame appeared in a dream. It was an extremely painful and destabilizing time in my life. One night, I dreamt that my twin flame walked up to me wearing the same black and colorful outfit he wore during his concert in Central Park in 1980. The outfit had the black and white piano keyboards running down both sides of his chest, and he wore the matching hat with the piano keys around the rim. That was exactly how he appeared in the dream. We were standing together in what looked like stadium bleachers. We were both 33 years old. This was during the phase when I was unintentionally morphing into my twin flame. Back then, I knew nothing about boundaries or emotional regulation, and I did not have the knowledge I have today to understand that many of these dreams were not meant to be taken literally. I was listening to misguided twin flame spiritual teachers on YouTube who spread delusional and inaccurate information. During that time, I was buying my twin flames jackets, purses, shirts, shoes, necklaces, glasses, everything, and proudly wearing these items in public. In the dream, I was wearing an outfit I had designed to resemble his black, colorful Central Park outfit. I was also carrying my custom purse with his pictures all over it. While we stood in the stadium bleachers, my twin flame noticed my purse and seemed impressed. He said, "I like this. It is really nice." I thanked him. Then the dream shifted suddenly, the way dreams often do, almost like time travel. The scene changed, and now my twin flame was in the room I was renting. We were lying in my bed together. I was on my side, and he was spooning me. We were still wearing the same clothes from the stadium. My hair was styled in traditional African Bantu knots. My twin flame gently rubbed my Bantu knots and told me he liked when I wore my hair that way. That moment stood out to me because, in real life, I was facing intense racism from my roommates and landlords. His compliment felt like something my twin flame knew I needed to hear. It was tender, soothing, and protective. Just having him there, holding me, comforting me, made me feel safe during a time when I felt completely unprotected in my waking life. For a moment, all the cruelty I was experiencing faded away. I thought it was real until I woke up. Of course, he was not there. But I never forgot that dream. Around 2016-2017, reflection and grounding. Before sharing this dream, I need to clarify an important point. I have never truly been a fan of my twin flame's music. While his voice is undeniably beautiful, almost angelic, my personal preferences have always leaned toward classical music, opera, meditative sounds, tribal rhythms, and singing bowls. The only reason I listened to his music at night was because I discovered it helped stop the severe nightmares stemming from my traumatic experiences with foster parents, kidnappers, and the religious cult. I emphasize this because there is a clear distinction between being a celebrity admirer and experiencing a twin flame connection. Just because he is my twin flame does not mean I must be his fan or enjoy his art. During this period, I was newly free from religious indoctrination and still exploring metaphysical and spiritual concepts. Whatever calmed my nervous system and reduced complex post-traumatic stress disorder triggers became a tool for survival. My twin flame's presence in dreams, stepping in to interrupt nightmares about the foster family from hell, served as a powerful psychological coping mechanism. Without the intensity of those recurring nightmares, he might have faded from my awareness, and I could have dismissed the entire phenomenon as unexplained and moved on. But because the trauma was so overwhelming, my psyche used this soul connection for protection and comfort. From a psychological perspective, I was using the connection as a coping tool. At the same time, I cannot deny that something deeper, something I still cannot fully explain, was occurring on a twin flame level. To keep that protective energetic channel open, I surrounded myself with his pictures and memorabilia throughout my 3-story home and played his music at night. This was not driven by romantic obsession or infatuation. As someone who is asexual, my motivation was purely practical, survival and peace of mind. This context is essential for understanding the significance of the following dream. One night, I fell asleep and entered a vivid dream. My twin flame appeared on the 2nd floor of my home, in the living room near the fireplace. He took my hand and began dancing with me. He looked exactly as he did during his 1986 tour, and we were the same age, 39. He danced with me gracefully and sang my favorite song, my favorite one, in its entirety. When the song ended, he kissed me. The experience felt completely real. We were standing face to face, chest to chest, in my actual home in front of the fireplace, with his arms around me. Suddenly, I opened my eyes and realized I was lying in bed. The dream had been so lifelike that I jumped up, ran downstairs to the 2nd floor in the middle of the night, and stood before the fireplace. No one was there, only his picture hung above the mantel. Disappointed but still not fully convinced, I searched all 3 floors of the house, calling his name. Only then did I accept that it had been a dream. Even so, I felt deeply happy. He had come into my home in the dream state, danced with me, and sang my favorite song. Perhaps this is how twin flames connect telepathically across dimensions. I will never forget that dream. Reflection. This experience reinforced how the twin flame connection served as a bridge between psychological survival and spiritual support during a vulnerable time of healing. It showed how my psyche used a familiar, non-threatening figure to create a sense of safety when my waking life offered none. The dream blended emotional regulation, symbolic protection, and spiritual meaning in a way that helped stabilize me during a period of intense complex post-traumatic disorder symptoms. Important disclaimer. This dream is entirely symbolic and not to be taken literally. It has no reference to the real-life actions, feelings, or circumstances of the celebrity who appears as my twin flame. The imagery represents inner psychological, emotional, and spiritual dynamics, particularly themes of comfort, protection, and soul-level presence during trauma recovery. The use of music and memorabilia was a personal coping strategy rooted in complex post-traumatic stress disorder, not obsession or romantic pursuit. October 15, 2025. Before I continue, I want to clarify something important. I have kept everything in this dream sequence clean and safe for sensitive listeners, including those who may be triggered by certain topics. When I refer to intimate moments, I use coded language because I understand that many of these dreams are symbolic, and I am careful about how I describe them. Nothing in these dreams reflects who this celebrity is in real life, and I fully understand that now. When I mention that there was a union, please keep in mind that in my raw diary entries, I record every detail immediately upon waking so that nothing is lost. I either use voice to text or write quickly on whatever paper I can find. Those raw entries are unfiltered. What you are hearing now is the polished, responsible version. I use certain words to summarize the experience and leave the rest to the imagination. When I say he came into sacred union with me, I will leave it at that. I will not add adjectives or embellishments, because I want this to remain clean and appropriate. Just know that there were more details in the original diary, but I am choosing to keep this version responsible. If I use coded words such as flirty, you may need to read between the lines. As I mentioned earlier, no matter where I live, no matter what state I move to, the twin flame always appears in the dream state inside the exact home I am living in at that moment. In the dream you are about to hear, he comes into the current place where I live today. Now let us continue. On October 15, 2025, I had a dream that my twin flame looked about the same age he appeared in 1979, the era when he wore that distinctive cap during his performances. In the dream, he came into the literal place where I live right now, into the very bedroom where I am sitting as I write this. We were in my actual kitchen, the same kitchen I can see from where I am sitting. In the dream, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. He was feeling a little flirty, so he lifted me up onto the counter. I am short, so when he set me on the counter, I was eye level with him. My twin flame went into sacred union with me there. We were vertical the entire time, not horizontal. And then I awoke. I have no idea what that dream means. Normally, I do not go into further detail beyond saying, went into union, but dreams often contain significant symbolism and metaphors. I am not a dream interpreter, but years from now, or even decades from now, long after I am gone, if anyone in the medical field, spiritual field, or psychic field ever studies these dreams, perhaps they will be able to decode what that counter symbolized. I only included that detail not to be graphic, but because it may represent something meaningful that I do not yet understand. Before this dream begins, I want to offer a disclaimer. Regarding all unions mentioned, I will describe them in the cleanest and most responsible way possible. You may need to read between the lines. I include these details only because they must hold symbolic or metaphoric meaning beyond the literal dream imagery. They do not reflect who this celebrity is in real life. Please listen with maturity and spiritual understanding. October 18, 2025. I had a dream that I was performing in my twin flames concert. In the dream, I worked for him. He was my boss, and I also had a crush on him, in the dream only, not in real life. The entire dream was in black and white. My twin flame looked the age he appeared during his 1988-1989 era. He was on stage playing his Roland piano. His head faced forward toward the crowd, but his eyes were turned completely to the left, as far as eyes can go. You could see the whites of his eyes. His head never moved, only his eyes. He was speaking into his piano microphone, answering someone who had asked him a question. This was right before the concert began, so there was extra time for him to interact. It may have been a news crew doing a brief pre-concert interview. While he was answering the person to his left, I stood across from him holding an instrument. I could not tell if it was a guitar or a hybrid keyboard guitar. I could see his face clearly. I had a crush on him in the dream, and I kept thinking, I hope he looks at me. I hope he looks at me. But he never did, because he was focused on the person asking him the question. Then the dream transitioned. Second transition. Suddenly, my twin flame's lead guitarist walked across the stage holding the hand of my twin flame's future little boy. The child looked about 14 years old. Then the dream shifted again. Third transition. The dream remained in black and white. Once again, the guitarist walked across the stage with the same 14-year-old boy. This time, the crowd reacted with excitement. Fans cheered, waved, and clapped as if the guitarist were presenting the boy to them. My twin flame did not respond. He remained seated at his piano. What stood out was that the little boy was the only person in color. Everything else, all three transitions, was in black and white. Only the child appeared in full color. I do not know if the boy was meant to represent my twin flame's future son or if he symbolized something else entirely. The guitarist never said, "This is his son," but everyone in the dream seemed to know. My twin flame never acknowledged the boy. He did not react at all. Dreams often shift without explanation, and this one did exactly that. Fourth transition. We were still on the same stage, still in black and white. This time, my twin flame looked the age he appeared in 1984. We were standing together on the right corner of the stage. The guitarist and the little boy walked across the stage again toward the edge. The entire concert hall was empty. Everyone had gone home. It was late at night. And to keep this clean and responsible, I will simply say. During the third transition, when my twin flame and I were alone on the corner edge of the stage and he came into union, a cryptic eclipse held the center, guiding the pendulum of my being, following the vertical migration of the sap within the great tree. His gaze remained hidden behind sealed curtains, yet a low, primal vibration escaped him, a vocal key that unlocked a secret frequency that bound our spirits to an unseen, underlying river of light. The dream shifted again. Same stage. Same black and white setting. The venue was empty except for the two of us. My twin flame now looked the age he appeared during his 1987-1988 era. In this final transition, the geometry reversed. I surrendered to the earth as he became the sky, descending with a fierce, driving intensity that blurred the boundaries between us before the morning finally broke. And I awoke, and I had no idea what that dream meant. Blank. By now, you have probably noticed that the dreams were becoming more frequent, more intense, and showing my twin flame interacting with me in ways he had never interacted before. This is why I eventually had to set boundaries, why I had to become the regulator, why I needed the dreams to stop, and why I needed a break. Now you understand why those boundaries were necessary. And before I continue, remember, do not take these dreams literally. They are metaphoric. October 22, 2025. I had a dream in which my twin flame was a famous celebrity at the age of 78, the age he is right now. I was 53. In the dream, I knew he was my twin flame, but he did not know. To him, he was simply a celebrity visiting a fan. I lived in an apartment, and he came to visit me. If I recall correctly, his bodyguards arrived first to make sure he would be safe from people in the hallway who wanted autographs. Once they confirmed everything was secure, he came in personally. We were alone in my apartment. There was a little boy with me in the dream. I have no idea who the father was. It was odd, because I am asexual, but the little boy was there. I do not believe he was my twin flame's child. He was simply present. My apartment felt beneath my twin flame's luxurious lifestyle. He is wealthy, famous, and a millionaire, yet somehow we were friends in this dream. I do not know how that happened, but he was visiting me casually. My little boy was running around, staring at my twin flame in amazement, sucking his thumb, trying to figure out who this shiny, sparkly, sequined man was. In the dream, my twin flame was overweight, very obese, barely able to move, and physically feeble, but he still wanted to visit me. We talked, and I tried to accommodate him. I let him watch a movie. I had a crush on him in the dream because I knew he was my twin flame, but he did not know. To him, he was simply visiting a fan. Because I was not used to him being in my home, this was the first time, I forgot to hide the little love notes and hearts I had around the house saying, "I love my twin flame." I panicked when I realized he might see them. He noticed a picture of himself on my table, and I knew there was a note underneath it expressing my twin flame feelings. I rushed over to distract him while covering the note. I invited him to sit in my pull-out chair. I turned on my television, a small 42-inch screen, far beneath his standards, but it was all I could afford. He began watching something. What he did not know was that I had illegally downloaded some of his rare videos from YouTube because I love them so much. When he turned on the TV, one of those rare videos was playing. He looked at me and asked, "Where in the world did you get this?" He was impressed. It was footage from the 1970s, filmed by his bandmates. I did not want him to think badly of me for downloading it illegally, so I played it off and said I could not remember where I found it. He continued watching, fascinated. Meanwhile, the little boy sat on the floor, staring at my twin flame in awe. I noticed crumbs on my table. I live alone, so sometimes I eat and clean later, but knowing how picky and perfect my twin flame is, I hurried to wipe them away. While he watched the rare video, I quietly cleaned the crumbs. The TV was very low to the ground because I could not afford a proper entertainment stand. My twin flame looked uncomfortable trying to watch it. I thought he was used to high-class living. Let me raise the TV so he can see it better. I lifted the TV onto the coffee table. He tried to help, but I told him no. I knew how feeble he was, with bad hips and knees. I could lift it easily. He was happier once the TV was raised. The little boy continued staring at him with curiosity. After watching the rare video, my twin flame wanted to watch sports. I handed him the remote and showed him how to turn the TV on. He stood up at one point, watching the game with excitement. I was so happy that this giant, famous man had come to my tiny, humble apartment. I felt embarrassed because I did not have the luxuries he was used to, just a cheap recliner from a thrift store, but he stayed anyway. In the background, my favorite twin flame song, my favorite one, was playing too loudly, so I went to turn it down. The little boy was now running around happily. Then I woke up, and realized, my favorite one, was playing on my headset in real life. This dream was unusual because in most dreams where my twin flame is a celebrity, he is never friends with me. And I have no idea who the little boy was. It is not unusual for me to dream of little boys or babies. Sometimes I am holding them, caring for them. Maybe it is my maternal side. Maybe it is my inner child. I do not know. But this was the first time that mysterious little boy crossed over into the Twin Flame Dream series. On October 20, 2025, I had a dream in which my twin flame was driving a car. He looked like he did around 1987. We were a couple, and he was a famous celebrity in the dream. I sat in the passenger seat. 2 other people were with us in the vehicle. One man, a guest of my twin flame, sat directly behind me in the back seat. The second man, one of my personal friends, sat behind my twin flame. The vehicle may have been an SUV, judging by how large the back storage area was, filled with food and equipment. As my twin flame drove, he began to sing my favorite song, the same one he sang to me in the dream where he visited my home and stood with me in front of the fireplace. My heart melted, because he knew it was my favorite. My twin flame's guest, the man sitting behind me, joined in and sang with him. I noticed that this guest had the exact same falsetto as my twin flame. I was stunned. I turned around in shock as he sang the song exactly the way my twin flame sings it. Wanting to be a good host to my twin flame's guest, I asked my personal friend, the one sitting beside him, to give him something to eat. I had packed burritos for the trip, so my friend reached into the picnic basket and handed one to my twin flame's guest. Then I gave the guest a tall drink with a lid and straw. I was so impressed by his singing that I was not paying attention. As I handed him the cup, I accidentally spilled a little of it onto his white shorts. I was mortified. I apologized sincerely, but he did not seem bothered at all. He simply kept eating as if nothing had happened. Still, I felt terrible for being clumsy, especially because I felt like I was representing my twin flame's girlfriend, and I thought I needed to be perfect. I turned back around, still embarrassed. My twin flame kept singing and glanced at me with a look of reassurance. His expression made me feel better. I smiled. Then, out of nowhere, my twin flame suddenly lost his voice. His mouth was open, trying to sing my favorite song, but no sound came out. He tried to speak and swallow, but he struggled. He drove with one hand and held the other hand against his throat, trying to force out a sound. I panicked. I worried for him and tried to help by offering him something to drink. And then I awoke. When I opened my eyes, the song playing on my headset was my favorite one. 2014-2015. Before I share this dream, I want to offer a disclaimer. You may notice that certain individuals appear in my twin flame dreams, sometimes with him, sometimes without him. As I have said before, these individuals in their real waking lives have 0% to do with anything in these dreams. They represent metaphors, symbols, or something my subconscious may be trying to communicate. They may point toward a premonition, a psychological message, or something else entirely. So if I mention someone close to my twin flame, please do not take it literally. This dream took place around 2014 or 2015. It began in black and white. I was standing in a long hallway. My twin flame walked by, looking exactly as he did in 1988. He wore a cute hat with a long tassel on the back, and he had his glasses on. He looked handsome, and in the dream I wanted to get to know him, in the dream only. I began following him. He walked through a series of doors. What stood out most were the endless rows of doors, like a professional building on a lower floor, almost basement-like, with no windows. Doors lined the left and right sides, similar to a hotel hallway where every door looks identical. All the doors were closed, brown, and possibly wooden. The walls were an army green-grayish color if I recall correctly. My twin flame continued walking among these doors, still looking like his 1988-1989 self. Every time I turned a corner, I saw more doors, but I could not find him. He went down a set of stairs, and I lost track of him. Then the dream shifted. A new figure appears. Instead of my twin flame returning through the doors, two men walked up from the stairwell. I looked closely as they passed me on my right. Then I realized. One of them was my twin flame, but an older version of him, looking like he did around 2003. He appeared very feminine, terribly out of shape, overweight, and his hair was styled in a feminine way. The man beside him was his civil partner. At this moment, the dream shifted from black and white into full color, and it remained in color for the rest of the dream. I was confused. My twin flame had just appeared in black and white as his 1988 self, but now he appeared in color as his older self, walking with his partner. I wanted to know if it was truly him, so I followed them. Suddenly, the dream transitioned into the old house where I was abused as a child, the foster home from hell. The house looked exactly as it did when I last saw it in my dreams. Off to the left of the living room was a small room, a guest room, and that is where my twin flame and his civil partner were sitting. They were on the bed, wearing suits, the same style they are known to wear today. The room looked exactly as it did when I was a little girl. My twin flame's partner appeared to be controlling him, almost like a handler. My twin flame looked robotic, feminine, and frozen. He had a forced grin on his face, a smile that did not move, but his eyes told a different story. His eyes looked terrified, as if silently pleading for help. His partner sat hip to hip beside him, with his arm or hand positioned behind my twin flame's back, near his spine, almost like a puppeteer controlling a puppet. The expression on my twin flame's face reminded me of someone who has an intruder in their home. When the doorbell rings and the police or a neighbor is outside, the intruder forces the victim to smile and act normal, while their eyes desperately try to communicate the danger. That was the look my twin flame had. His partner, meanwhile, had a passive-aggressive smile, not sinister, not fake, just a smile that silently communicated, "I am the one in control here." I stood in the doorway, watching, unable to help. My twin flame's eyes trembled with fear, but his mouth kept the forced smile. I turned away, heartbroken, because I did not know how to help him. As I stood by the door, preparing to leave, I thought about how frightened he looked. I knew he was being controlled, but I did not know what to do. I decided to be brave and try again. I turned around and re-entered the room. For some reason, I was holding balloons, twisting balloons, the kind you can shape into puppies or kittens. I do not know why they were in my hands. And then I awoke. I do not know what this dream was trying to tell me. I do not know why it took place in the foster home from hell. No one else was there but the three of us. And I definitely cannot figure out what the balloons meant. Sometime in 2013. This dream took place sometime around 2013. I do not remember all of the details because most of it faded from my short-term memory by the time I woke up. That has happened with several of my twin flame dreams, some are vivid and detailed, while others leave me with only the final moments. What I do remember is this. My twin flame and I were a couple in the dream. He looked exactly as he did in 1976, and we were the same age. We were at an outdoor picnic or party. My twin flame was trying to be funny, making jokes, but unfortunately he was making a complete fool of himself. I leaned over to him and quietly said, "Hey, you might want to cool it." He stopped immediately. And that is all I remember. I do not know what that dream meant. Before I share this dream, I want to offer a disclaimer. When I have dreams involving my twin flames, close loved ones, family, or friends, please remember, none of it reflects who they are in real life. Dreams are symbolic and metaphoric. If I describe something unusual about someone's appearance or behavior, it is not literal. These symbols may hold meaning for spiritual, psychological, or educational purposes, perhaps for someone decades or centuries from now who studies these dreams. That is why I preserve every detail. Now let us begin. This dream took place around 2015. It was mysterious from the start. My twin flame was the famous singer he is today, and I was a young fan who admired him. I was backstage with him while he was getting dressed between shows. He seemed stressed, frustrated, and overwhelmed. For some reason, he wanted my company, strictly in a professional sense, and he wanted me to help him. He was changing clothes, and I assisted him by helping remove his shirt and putting a new one on. When I looked at his abdomen, I saw hanging, sagging rolls of loose skin, the kind someone might have after losing a significant amount of weight. He looked unwell, in very bad shape, and he was barely breathing, as if he had just stepped off a treadmill. He was trying to telepathically communicate with me. I could feel him trying to say he was in trouble. He was trying to tell me that his civil partner was controlling him. Suddenly, his partner walked into the dressing room. He immediately tried to take over what I was doing, helping my twin flame get dressed, but I refused to step aside. My twin flame wanted me there, and I stood my ground. His partner stepped back with a sour expression, but I did not care. My twin flame grew frightened the moment his partner entered the room. He lowered his head the way a child might when caught doing something they were not supposed to do. He kept glancing at me with fear in his eyes, as if silently asking for protection. He stood very close to me, almost seeking safety in my proximity. His entire demeanor changed the moment his partner appeared. He looked terrified, submissive, and trapped. And then I awoke. I do not know what this dream means. October 30th, 2025. On October 30th, 2025, I had a dream. Unfortunately, most of it faded from my short-term memory, so I only remember the final moments. In this dream, I was invited to visit my twin flame in his incredible mansion. To me, it felt like a castle. At the time, I was living in a tiny, rinky-dink studio apartment, so his home felt overwhelmingly grand. The mansion was massive, so large it resembled a museum. Inside were rooms filled with antique, mid-century art, the kind of pieces you would expect to find in a castle or historical estate. Some rooms were dedicated solely to viewing these artworks. There was also a section of the house that was roped off with a velvet rope, indicating that whatever was behind it was precious, rare, and extremely valuable. My twin flame stood beside a statue of a knight in shining armor. And that is all I remember. In 2013, once again, I want to offer a disclaimer before sharing this dream. When I have dreams involving my twin flame's loved ones, past partners, or anyone connected to him, please remember, none of it reflects who they are in real life. Dreams are symbolic, metaphoric, and often represent psychological or spiritual messages. Sometimes they are subconscious processing, sometimes astral-like communication, sometimes premonition, and sometimes pure metaphor. So if I describe something emotional or intense, please read it with wisdom and understand that it is not literal. The dream is trying to say something, I simply do not know what. Now let us begin. This dream took place sometime in 2013. It was in black and white. My twin flame came to meet me in the dream. He looked exactly as he did around 1988. He wore a hat that resembled a Shriner-style cap, and he had white hair. We were having a conversation, and I was fully aware that we were meeting in a dream state. In the dream, we were the same age. Because I knew I was dreaming, I took the opportunity to ask him something that had always confused me. I asked him what really happened between him and his former wife. The reason I wanted to know was because he had always spoken so highly of her. He seemed to truly love her, and she appeared to be the perfect partner for him. I could never understand why their marriage ended. I suspected it might have been related to his desire to be with a man, but even that did not fully make sense to me, because he genuinely loved her. So in the dream, I asked him, "Hey, my twin flame, what really happened between you and your former wife?" The moment I asked, he became emotional. He stood up with tears in his eyes and began to cry. "I hurt her," he said. "I hurt her. I hurt her." He repeated it over and over. "She had to get away from me. I hurt her." He kept crying and crying. And then I awoke. October 31st, 2025. Before I share the next dream, I want to offer a clear disclaimer. The dreams you are about to read are part of a recurring pattern, and they contain symbolism that I do not yet have the ability to interpret. Please understand that nothing in these dreams should be taken literally. The celebrity I refer to, my twin flame, he has no awareness of these dreams, no awareness of my existence, and I have never met him, nor do I wish to. I am not even a fan of his music. These dreams are symbolic, metaphoric, and possibly connected to a twin flame dynamic, although I remain on the fence about that. I document these dreams strictly for educational, psychological, and spiritual purposes. Please read them with wisdom, discernment, and symbolic understanding, not literal interpretation. Now let us continue. On October 31st, 2025, I had a dream in which my twin flame and I were a couple. We were in a beautiful, loving relationship. This dream took place in the literal apartment I am living in right now in 2025. The setting was not symbolic, it was my actual home. I was in the bathroom, bent over the bathtub, cleaning it out because I was preparing to take a hot bath. The bathroom door was open. From where I was kneeling, I could see directly into the kitchen. My twin flame was standing in my actual kitchen, leaned up against the counter, doing something. I do not know if he was fixing orange juice, making a smoothie, or preparing something else, but he was occupied in that little spot, the same spot that exists in my real kitchen today. The kitchen is slightly across from the bathroom, so we could see each other clearly. I felt a little flirty, so I acted playfully while cleaning the tub. Whatever I did must have worked, because within seconds, my peripheral vision noticed that my twin flame was standing right beside me. And we went into sacred union. And then I awoke. The clock read 3:25 a.m. I do not know what that dream means. But at this point, I truly wish he would stop coming into my dreams and making love to me. I sincerely wish the sacred union dreams would stop. I do not know why I am having them, and it is not something I desire. Before I share this dream, I want to offer a brief disclaimer. The dreams you are about to read are part of a recurring pattern, and they contain symbolism that I do not yet have the ability to interpret. Please understand that nothing in these dreams should be taken literally. The celebrity I refer to, my twin flame, as of June 18, 2026, is alive and well today, completely unaware of these dreams, and completely unaware of my existence. I have never met him, nor do I wish to. I am not even a fan of his music. These dreams are symbolic, metaphoric, and possibly connected to a twin flame dynamic, although I remain undecided about that. I document them strictly for educational, psychological, and spiritual purposes. Please read them symbolically, not literally. Now let us begin. On November 3, 2025, I had a dream in which my twin flame and I were a married couple, deeply happy and very much in love. He looked like he did around 1988 or 1989. The dream took place at a music studio where he was filming a soulful music video. His large, luxurious travel trailer, essentially a small apartment with a kitchen, bathroom, guest room, and private rooms, was parked right outside the studio. My twin flame had just finished filming the music video, and he was completely exhausted. He came into his trailer, where I was waiting for him. Inside the trailer were monitors showing the live feed of the music crew editing the video, so I could see him performing even as he walked in. After finishing his part, he entered the trailer while the crew continued editing on set. He plopped down onto the bed where I was sitting and laid his head in my lap, wearing his royal blue tour jacket with white stripes at the wrists. He was so tired that he simply collapsed into me. I began comforting him, rubbing his head, and arranging my 3 pillows to support his neck and head. This room was my personal space within the trailer. He had his own private area, and I had mine. He asked me to go back onto the set to retrieve something he had forgotten. I was more than happy to do it because I loved him deeply. I walked into the music studio, which was only a few steps away since the trailer was parked right outside. As I walked down the long aisle, I saw the crew editing the video he had just filmed with his 3 soulful female backup singers. I retrieved the item he needed and headed back toward the trailer. On my way back, the music video song played over the loudspeakers. The rhythm and his voice were so beautiful that I began dancing. I was known on set as a very good dancer, and everyone there knew I was his wife, so it was not unusual for me to dance my way through the studio. As I passed a group of celebrity women standing in a corner watching the editing process, I overheard them talking, unaware that I could hear them. One of them said how much they envied my twin flame's wife because she had him all to herself now, and they could no longer flirt with him the way they used to when he was single. Their words made me feel proud and honored to be his wife. I returned to the trailer and gave him the item he had asked for. I continued tending to him, seeing how exhausted he was. He was happy that I was waiting on him, happy that I was accommodating him, and proud that I was his wife. He moved over and rested his head on my lap again, using my small, worn pillows. I realized he had much larger, more luxurious pillows in his own room, so I excused myself, went into his space, and grabbed his 3 thick pillows along with his little black travel shaving kit, the one he uses when flying, where he keeps his shaving items and his Carmex. I made sure his Carmex was in the bag because mine was almost empty. I returned to my room, sat down, and placed his luxurious pillows on my lap. He immediately flopped his head onto them from exhaustion. I opened his black bag and placed his items, including the Carmex, on the nightstand so he could reach them easily. He reached over, grabbed my nearly empty Carmex, used it, and set it back down. I quietly moved my empty one aside and slid his full one closer so he would have what he needed. He rested on me while we both watched the monitor showing the crew editing the music video. I continued pulling items from his bag and placing them on the nightstand. One of the items was a portable screwdriver. I have no idea why he had it, but I set it out just in case. As I massaged his head, I remembered what the celebrity women had said about envying me. Their words made me smile. I felt incredibly lucky to have him. On the monitor, I saw him and the three soulful backup vocalists singing inside a square frame with beautiful visual effects. His voice was so soulful that I could not stop admiring him. I looked down and saw him falling asleep on my lap, the lap of the wife he truly loved, and I smiled. And then I awoke. The song playing on my headset was the same soulful song from the dream. Curiously, when I glanced at the clock, it was 3:25 a.m. My twin flame's birthday. November 8, 2025. Before I share the next dream, I need to explain what happened the day before, because it directly connects to the dream that followed. On November 8, 2025, I was in a very dark place. My bank had cut off my debit cards, and I suddenly had no access to my money. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and without that payment, I would have been homeless. I had no one to turn to. Time was ticking, and the situation was becoming dangerous. You'll have to read between the lines, I will leave it at that. In the middle of this crisis, one of my electronic devices chimed. I assumed it was a notification from a YouTube channel I was subscribed to. I checked my device, scrolling through social media, and suddenly I saw my twin flame in the news, everywhere. He was having a public meltdown, and every major outlet was covering it. I know he's famous, but I had never seen so many platforms repeat the same story at the same time. Even independent creators were discussing it. It distracted me so completely that I forgot the dark place I was in. Watching the coverage of his meltdown pulled me out of my spiral. It grounded me. It brought me back to myself. The next day, the news coverage continued. I felt calmer, more stable, and more focused. I went online to figure out how I was going to get a new bank account. That's when I discovered that I could open an online bank without physically going anywhere. Problem solved. Had my twin flame not distracted me at the exact moment he did, I never would have taken the time to research that option. I would not be here today. I will leave it at that. I opened the online bank account, and the crisis was resolved. But the point is this. I spent so many hours reading those articles about my twin flame that I completely forgot I was stressed. And that is what ties into the dream that followed. Normally, I do not write down dreams that land in my short-term memory. When dreams are in short-term memory, I only remember the last fragments, and the details are sparse. I don't like to guess or fill in missing pieces. But this dream was different. Even though it was a short-term memory dream, the final detail was so striking that I had to write it down. My twin flame appeared as the exact age he is right now, 78. The dream took place in 2025. The dream began in a white-walled room that looked like a cafeteria. My twin flame, the famous celebrity, was helping me write a song. He knew I was a songwriter, and I was struggling with one of the lines. He took the paper from me and wrote a better lyric, a beautiful line that flowed far better than what I had written. As he worked on the lyric, a younger man entered the room. This younger person, maybe in his late 20s to mid-30s, began talking to me about music and personal topics. I could see my twin flame in my peripheral vision, still writing, but I could tell he was listening to our conversation. I sensed he felt left out. He no longer performs the way he used to, and the younger man represented the current music industry, something he is no longer part of. The younger man eventually left. My twin flame held up the paper with the improved lyrics, but he did not smile. He looked sad. I thanked him for the lyric, grateful for how beautifully he had improved it. Then the dream transitioned. Suddenly, we were in a bedroom. I don't know whose bedroom it was. My twin flame was lying on his left side on the bed. Seeing how sad he was, I crawled onto the bed and lay on my right side facing him. We were not touching. I was simply there to comfort him. We were listening to one of his songs, a song about darkness. The meaning behind that song made the moment feel even more symbolic. He was very depressed. I could sense it. Telepathically, I understood why. The pillow under his head was flat, so I grabbed another pillow to prop him up. He was grateful. In this dream, he was very overweight, with sagging skin, the physical signs of age and exhaustion. We lay facing each other with a large space between us. We were not in a relationship. I was simply a friend offering comfort. As the song played, I could feel his sadness. Telepathically, he revealed the truth. He could no longer sing the way he used to. He missed the prime of his voice. He missed his youth. He missed his falsetto. That's why he had been silent when the younger man entered the room. That's why he held his head down. That's why he looked so sad. After several minutes, he finally said aloud what I already knew. I lost my beautiful falsetto. I felt compassion for him. I encouraged him to write songs that fit his deep baritone voice now. But my words did not lift his sadness. He continued grieving the loss of his younger voice. I stayed beside him, silently offering comfort. And then I awoke. The clock read 3:33 a.m. The song playing on my MP3 player was the same song about darkness. This dream was unusual because I rarely dream of him as a man 25 years older than me while we share a close friendship outside the celebrity fan dynamic. But in October and November of 2025, the dreams were coming back to back. And he kept appearing at his current age. I don't know why. It feels telepathic, as if he's trying to tell me something. I am not a dream interpreter, but I know this. He is visiting more and more in his present-day form. At this point, I wanted the dreams to stop. Not because the person representing my twin flame was creepy, but because the energy felt like he was crossing something. That's why I use the phrase, crossing the forbidden threading rule. It felt like he knew he was my twin flame. He was becoming aware. He was crossing 3D boundaries. His 5D energy was draining me. Something was unbalanced. This is what eventually led me to block or mute the veil. Earlier dreams felt like movies. But these recent dreams felt like he was fully conscious, fully aware, and stepping into the 3D realm. I don't know how to put it into words. Maybe someone with deeper twin flame knowledge will understand what this means. December 2025. Before reading this next dream, please keep something in mind. Any mention of unions, or being flirty, or romantic interaction is metaphoric, symbolic, and has no literal impact on the real people involved. It does not represent the celebrity as he is today, and it does not represent me. These dreams do not reflect anything either of us desires in waking life. Please read this dream with openness, wisdom, and symbolic understanding. Nothing in it should be taken literally. Now let us begin. This was my first dream of December 2025. In the dream, my twin flame and I were married, deeply happy and very much in love. The setting was a large stadium that looked almost like a baseball stadium, although it was actually a concert venue. My twin flame was the performer. I was sitting in the stadium seats, in the chair closest to the aisle, the seat right beside the walkway where people come down the stairs to sit. My twin flame walked down that aisle toward me. When he reached me, I stood up to greet him, smiling because he was my husband. He was unusually flirty. He began kissing me right there in front of the crowd. But at that moment, I wasn't even aware of the crowd. It felt like we were in another universe, just the two of us, as if the rest of the stadium had disappeared. Eventually, I gently pulled myself away and told him it was time for the concert to start. He laughed playfully, still flirty, and walked away to get ready. I sat back down in the bleachers. The dream transitioned. Suddenly, my twin flame was in the center of the stadium throwing a baseball back and forth with his lead guitarist. I don't know why they were playing catch, but that's what they were doing, almost like a warm-up before the concert. At one point, the ball was being thrown unusually close to the crowd. I became concerned and telepathically communicated to my twin flame that he was too close to the audience. He picked up my telepathic message immediately and moved farther away from the crowd. Once he did, my nervousness eased. He was wearing his concert uniform, which resembled a baseball player's outfit. In the dream, we were the same age, however old he was in 1976, that's how old we both were. And then I awoke. When I woke up, my brain struggled to return fully to my bedroom. It felt as though I was caught between the stadium dream and the physical world, suspended between dimensions. It took effort to come fully back into my body. Eventually, the scenery finally stopped shifting between the 5D dream realm and my 3D waking reality. I could see clearly that I was back in my bedroom, and that the entire experience had only been a dream. I got up to use the washroom. When I returned, I glanced at the clock. It read 3:25 a.m. My twin flame's birthday. As a side note, this was before I understood grounding and regulating dreams. I went to bed early, so this dream may have taken place either on the night of the 7th or in the early morning hours of the 8th. It was a very short dream, one of my short-term memory dreams, so all I can recall is the final scene right before I woke up. In this dream, my twin flame was standing across a massive canyon. The landscape looked like something out of a mountain climbing expedition, tall cliffs, deep valleys, and a drop so steep it reminded me of the Grand Canyon. My twin flame was on one high mountain ridge, and I was on the opposite side, with a huge canyon stretching between us. He was trying to get to me. I tried to stop him because I was terrified he would fall into that enormous drop, but he was determined. Nothing I said could stop him. He was going to reach me no matter what. He used some kind of bungee rope or climbing cable, whatever mountain climbers use for extreme maneuvers. He performed a dangerous move, attaching the cable to something on his side and sending it across the canyon to the mountainside where I was standing. The scene reminded me of that moment in the movie Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, when Jim Carrey tries to save the raccoon with a cable line. My twin flame sent the cable all the way across to me, and then crossed the canyon using that line. I was terrified for him the entire time, but nothing I said or did could stop him. He was determined to reach me. He made it safely to my side of the canyon. And then I awoke. December 12th, I had an unusual dream. In this dream, it appeared that I was from the future. My twin flame was there with me, appearing at the age he was in 1989, while I was the same age as I am now. He was a famous celebrity. Although I knew we were twin flames, he had no awareness of our connection. I was deeply in love with him but played it cool, pretending I did not know who he was. The dream was set in the 1980s at an outdoor funeral during the height of the AIDS epidemic. We were attending the funeral of a man who had died from AIDS. I saw one of the morticians folding a pair of the deceased man's pants beside the open casket. Most of the mourners were celebrities and famous people, with the exception of me. I don't recall who the deceased was, only that he had died of AIDS. I stood beside my twin flame among the other celebrities. Even though it was a funeral, almost no one was crying or visibly sad. It seemed they had grown used to these deaths. People stood around conversing as if at a social gathering, quietly discussing the AIDS epidemic. Someone asked my twin flame whether he had been tested for AIDS. He replied, "Yes, I get tested every 6 months." For some reason, he then walked away and sat alone at a nearby picnic table. I followed and sat down on his right side. It was just the two of us. He looked at me, and I looked at him. "If you're in an exclusive relationship with your boyfriend," I asked, "why would you need to get tested for AIDS? Are you seeing other people outside of your relationship?" He gave me a knowing smile that said yes without words. I returned the look with a smile of my own, as if to say, "Oh, I see." We both understood. Then he leaned his head toward mine and gave me a gentle sideways kiss, the polite, cheek-to-cheek kind often called an air kiss. He was wearing a dark orange-red tank top, which seemed odd for a funeral, but it revealed his muscular arms. He looked extremely fit, as if he worked out regularly. Taking full advantage of this dream, I placed my hand on his forearm, knowing I might never have this chance again outside of it. It felt like one of those lucid dreams where you can control what happens. While our heads were still leaned together, cheek to cheek, we exchanged another sideways kiss. But this time, he turned his head a little too far, and I turned mine as well. Our lips accidentally met. Since I knew we were in a dream and not in 3D reality, and because I was from the future, I took full advantage of the moment. Then I awoke. I want to make something perfectly clear after sharing this dream. When I woke up, I was still fully myself, an asexual woman with strong personal boundaries and no romantic or physical attraction to the celebrity whose body represents my twin flame in these dreams. Nothing in this dream reflects who I am in my waking 3D reality, and it does not reflect who he is either. He has no idea I exist, and I have no desire to know him personally. In my real life, I maintain strict modesty and clear boundaries for my own safety and comfort. I do not allow men or anyone of the opposite sex to be alone with me, touch me, or sit closely with me. I do not touch them, and I do not fraternize privately. Even in professional settings, such as when maintenance workers come to fix something, I keep interactions brief, polite, and strictly business. I lower my gaze, avoid unnecessary eye contact, and look away when a man is shirtless, or, not dressed, modestly. This is not suppression, curiosity, or hidden desire. It is simply who I am, and it has always been my boundary. Because of this, the gestures in the dream, touching his arm, the sideways cheek kiss, and the symbolic closeness, were part of the dream's narrative, not my waking identity. They do not reflect my real-life behavior, intentions, or desires. These dreams are 100% symbolic, like watching a movie, and should not be interpreted as literal or reflective of my 3D self in any way. Before I share this dream, I want to make something absolutely clear. This dream is 100% symbolic. It does not reflect my twin flame, his family, or anyone associated with him in real life. It does not represent their personalities, behaviors, or relationships. The imagery is metaphoric, not literal, and should be understood as part of the dream realm only. I had a dream on December 17th. This dream transitioned between scenes, so I will begin with the first part. My twin flame looked exactly as he did in the 1970s, specifically around 1976. His mother also appeared exactly as she looked during that era. I don't know if the dream itself took place in 1976, but both of them appeared in their 1976 forms. It was his birthday, his 40th birthday, even though he looked like he did in 1976. I was also age 40 in the dream. I was sitting in stadium bleachers with a few other people, all of whom were friends of my twin flame and other well-known celebrities. His mother sat beside me in the bleachers. She had a bit too much to drink and was giggly, cheerful, and talkative, clearly enjoying herself. My twin flame had also had a bit too much to drink, but he wasn't in the bleachers. He was sitting in the center of the arena area with about 30 of his closest friends. In the middle of the stadium was a massive television, something like a 90-inch screen, and he and his friends were watching football together as part of his birthday celebration. Even though he was supposedly turning 40, he still looked like his 1976 self. I sat in the bleachers beside his mother, simply observing and enjoying the atmosphere. While my twin flame was watching football, his friends suddenly grabbed a large sheet. They each held onto a corner, and they placed him in the middle of it, the way people sometimes toss someone into the air during a celebration. They threw him upward, expecting him to land safely back onto the sheet. But when he came down, he missed the sheet entirely and landed hard on the ground, right on his tailbone. He laughed and laughed, probably too intoxicated to feel the pain. Everyone else laughed too. I was worried about him, but he did not seem bothered at all. Then the dream transitioned. Suddenly, I was in an apartment I did not recognize. My landlord was there, asking whether my bathroom had a piece of carpet in it. I told him it did not. He said he would put it there and then left. I did not want carpet in the bathroom because it's unsanitary. And then I woke up. Ironically, when I woke up, my tailbone was sore, in the exact spot where my twin flame had fallen in the dream. It was the same area of the body. I don't know why it was sore or whether this dream was some kind of premonition, but the pain was real. Shortly afterward, the soreness disappeared completely, as if nothing had happened. January 2, 2026. I dreamt I was on a luxury cruise ship working as an interviewer. I was interviewing my twin flame, though he was unaware of my feelings or that we were twin flames. In the dream, he appeared as he did between the ages of 40 and 44, the same age I was in the dream. We sat across from each other in the ship's aisle, with the ocean sparkling in the background. He leaned against the boat rail as he spoke. While I could hear his words, I found myself more captivated by his soulful eyes, which seemed to convey far more than his voice. At one point during the interview, he looked directly at me. His left eye remained fixed on me while his right eye briefly glanced to the right, as if noticing something nearby, before returning to meet my gaze. It struck me as odd because both eyes usually move together. I recalled that he may have had a slight lazy eye in his younger years, but this movement felt more pronounced. Right after that moment, he flipped the script on the interview, an unusual thing for someone being questioned, and began asking me questions instead. "Tell me," he said, "what are you enjoying about this cruise? What are your favorite things about this trip?" As I prepared to answer, he mysteriously began to move farther away while still seated, as though his chair and body were drifting backward across the deck without him standing. He continued to recede, growing smaller in the distance, yet remained visible. At that same moment, a large mythical dragon appeared out of nowhere and began circling the cruise ship. It was black with wings, a long tail, a long neck, and a dragon-like head that carried a hint of something almost human. The creature was not threatening, it simply glided gracefully around the boat like a massive bird of prey. I stood up to get a better look. Strangely, I seemed to be the only one who noticed it at first. Elderly passengers in their 70s and 80s strolled along the deck, chatting and enjoying the ride as if nothing unusual was happening. A sweet, friendly older woman in her 70s approached me with a warm smile and asked if I was enjoying the boat ride. I replied that I was still bewildered that no one else saw the dragon. When I pointed it out to the other passengers, they turned their heads and finally noticed the creature. Rather than reacting with fear, they gazed at it in awe, as if watching a scene from a Hollywood movie. As I had been answering my twin flame's question, he continued to drift farther and farther away, almost as if vanishing into a bubble over the ocean. My attention had shifted completely to the dragon, and I don't remember what became of him after that. I woke up shortly afterward, struck by how strange the entire dream had been. January 12, 2025. Before reading this dream, please understand that everything described here is spiritual and metaphoric, not literal. Nothing in this dream reflects my twin flame as he exists in real life, nor does it represent any physical interaction, desire, or event in the 3D world. This dream is symbolic imagery from the subconscious and should be interpreted through a spiritual, archetypal, or metaphoric lens, never a literal one. Dream, January 12, 2025. The dream of January 12 placed us in the middle of a formal social gathering. My twin flame stood to my right. We were both around 44, carrying a quiet maturity, and the warmth of our sacred union from the night before, in an energetic way. I was speaking casually with a woman in front of me, maintaining a professional tone. But in my right hand, I held something delicate, a thin, translucent veil, the symbolic covering that had protected his sacred jewels earlier in the dream's storyline. It was fragile, almost weightless, and I was trying to keep it hidden. My fingers slipped. The veil fell to the polished floor, and a few of his sacred jewels spilled out. Panic shot through me. Embarrassment followed. I immediately bent down, trying to gather the veil and hide the symbolic evidence of our union. I wanted to protect our connection, to keep it private and sacred. My twin flame did not move to help. He simply watched me, dressed in a sharp, mustard brown-colored, elegant suit, wearing black-framed glasses, and a black dress hat. He stood with a calm, confident smirk, not arrogant, but quietly proud. His expression said everything. He loved me deeply, and in that moment he carried the energy of a man who felt honored, triumphant, and protective. It was as if he was silently saying, "She is mine, and I am hers," but without a single word. I stood back up and resumed my conversation with the woman. Strikingly, she hadn't noticed anything. She did not react to the fallen veil or the scattered jewels. It was as if the dream itself had muted the moment, keeping our sacred connection hidden from the world. The scene held its breath. And then I awoke. January 19, 2026. Before reading this dream, please understand that everything described here is spiritual, symbolic, and metaphoric. Nothing in this dream reflects my twin flame as he exists in real life, nor does it represent any physical interaction, desire, or event in the 3D world. This dream is part of the subconscious symbolic realm and should be interpreted through a spiritual lens, not a literal one. The dream of January 19 began with me walking through a serene, almost fantasy-like paradise. The grass was lush and vividly green, and the entire world around me felt peaceful, joyful, and alive. In the distance, I saw an ancient arena, abandoned, weathered, and mysterious. I had never seen an arena like this before, so I walked toward it out of curiosity. At first, the arena looked tiny, almost like an anthill from far away. But as I approached, the dream shifted. Suddenly, my twin flame was beside me. In this dream, he was my boyfriend, and we were walking toward the arena together. We sat in the bleachers, snuggled close, admiring the beauty of the ancient structure. We were deeply in love, not in a physical sense, but in the symbolic, spiritual way dreams often portray connection. Then the dream transitioned again. Now my twin flame, still my boyfriend in the dream, was walking me to my house. The house was unfamiliar, peaceful, and safe. The guardians inside were kind, gentle, and nothing like the harsh figures from earlier dreams. They sat in the living room, radiating warmth. My twin flame looked like he did around 1994. He became flirty, affectionate, and playful. I went into the bathroom because I did not want the guardians to see us kissing, even though we were adults. The dream carried the energy of a strict upbringing, where modesty and propriety were expected. He encouraged us to go into the bathroom because he wanted to enter sacred union with me. I hesitated, saying someone might walk in. He reassured me that no one would see. He was eager, affectionate, and persistent in a symbolic way. I stopped him and said, "Let's go to my bedroom instead." I peeked left and right to make sure the coast was clear, the guardians were still in the living room, and then we slipped into my bedroom. As soon as we entered, I closed the door. I don't think I even had time to lock it before he entered sacred union with me in the symbolic sense. As an asexual person, both in real life and within the dream, I felt nothing physical from the experience. My focus was simply on wanting him to be happy. When he symbolically passed out, I grabbed wipes and gently cleaned him, caring for him the way one might care for someone vulnerable. While doing so, I noticed that the vessel of his sacred jewels was exaggerated in size, bearing the mythic weight of a ripe, heavy gourd from a celestial harvest, an impossible dream-woven form that defied the laws of the waking world. Then I woke up. January 21, 2026. I had a very unusual dream. Much of the early part has faded, but I clearly recall the final scene. In the dream, my twin flame and I, both 35 years old, were in a dark bedroom, lying together in bed. He was my boyfriend in this dream. He had passed out from substance use, possibly alcohol or cocaine. I observed his hairy body as he suddenly rolled off the bed and onto the floor, still unconscious. I looked at his face with absolute love and compassion. I knew he struggled with this issue, though he was unaware that I knew. I joined him on the floor, holding him gently in sympathy as he lay there helpless. Suddenly, there was a loud, hard knock at the door, followed by a deep, manly voice shouting something about the police. Panic surged through me. I wanted to protect my twin flame and feared they would arrest him. I had no idea what evidence they might have or where he had hidden anything. I silently shook him, trying desperately to wake him so he could hide his stash, though I wasn't even certain that was why the police were there. Then something even stranger happened. I heard the voice of the abusive guardian from my childhood, that evil, demonic presence from my past, also knocking and calling my name, urging me to open the door so the police could enter. She seemed to be helping them. I kept trying to rouse my twin flame, but he remained completely unresponsive and limp. A terrifying thought crossed my mind: was he in an alcohol-induced coma? Oh my God, was he dead? The relentless banging continued. I panicked at the possibility of being arrested on suspicion of harming my boyfriend. Silent tears streamed down my face as I whispered over and over, "My twin flame, my twin flame, my twin flame, please wake up." The banging echoed louder and louder. Bang, bang, bang. Then I woke up. January 28, 2026. I had a vivid and intense dream in which my twin flame appeared as the famous celebrity he is today. This was the first time in dreams that he was portrayed as 25 years older than me, while showing clear romantic interest in me within the 5D dream state. In all previous dreams, even when he appeared at his current age, our interactions had remained strictly platonic or friendly. The dream began at a private celebration. My twin flame and his husband were seated at a cafe-style table. I was hosting the event, aware of our twin flame connection though he was not. Wanting to create a romantic atmosphere for them, I brought out a cake and guided them to intertwine their arms like a serpent, elbows on the table, palms touching, then fingers interlaced. They fed each other pieces of cake while everyone cheered. The scene then transitioned. In the second part of the dream, we were in the bleachers of a large stadium or circus-like venue where a performance was underway below. My twin flame sat to my left. I played it cool, assuming he saw me only as a stranger or admirer. The performers instructed everyone to hold hands with the person beside them and raise their arms in the air. As we complied, a distraction occurred on the floor. While others eventually lowered their hands, my twin flame continued holding mine. He deliberately adjusted our grip so his right hand rested on top of my left, then gently lowered our joined hands to rest on his upper thigh. What followed felt unusually bold. All the while, he made these small, incremental micro-movements every 5 to 7 seconds, gradually increasing our closeness step by step. Throughout this process, he never looked directly at me, his gaze remained fixed forward on whatever was happening in the arena, as though he were simply focused on the event. I sent telepathic messages urging restraint, reminding him we were not a couple in 3D reality and that he had a husband, but he did not respond. At that moment, I became telepathically aware that he fully knew we were twin flames and that we connected in 5D. Yet he was choosing to cross this forbidden veil in the 3D setting of the dream. He drew me closer by placing his arm around my waist until we sat hip to hip and shoulder to shoulder. He then lifted me gently onto his right thigh, holding my waist securely to keep me close in a protective, embracing manner. He continued these subtle adjustments with quiet determination, as though marking his territory. I was internally conflicted, thinking this was not the proper way to express our connection and that it should not happen in 3D. The distraction in the arena became clear. His husband had collapsed and lay on the floor in the midst of a medical emergency. Paramedics were performing CPR and using defibrillator shocks to revive him, his body jerking with each attempt, yet he did not respond. Meanwhile, a small African American girl walked across the arena floor toward her mother. I woke up feeling deeply confused by the dream's intensity and symbolism. Reflective note: this was the last dream I had of him before I made the conscious decision to close the veil and mute these connections. The experience was so powerful that I removed all his posters, stopped listening to his music at night, turned off other triggers, and stopped wearing associated gemstones. These steps, combined with learning emotional regulation, helped restore balance. Important disclaimer: this dream is entirely symbolic and not to be taken literally. It has no reference to the real-life actions, feelings, relationships, or circumstances of the celebrity who appears as my twin flame. There is no implication or intention to suggest any real-world romantic interest, public behavior, marital issues, substance-related incidents, or other literal events. The imagery represents inner psychological, emotional, and spiritual dynamics only. The psychic impressions mentioned are personal reflections and not presented as verified fact. Either March or April 2026. By this point, my twin flame had begun crossing more and more of the forbidden 3D boundaries in our dream connections. Even when it was time for him to leave at sunrise and return through the veil portal, he would linger. He started interfering with my daytime thoughts and visions, almost hijacking my mental space. For example, if I listened to another male artist, I could sense his jealousy. These crossings felt inappropriate and disruptive. The intense stadium dream had been the final straw. I decided I needed to create strong psychic and telepathic boundaries. I psychically detached from him and told him I needed space to recharge. His Aries fire energy had become overwhelming, and I wanted my life back. To support this, I removed all triggers. I threw away his posters and memorabilia, deleted his songs from my music player, stopped following him on social media and news updates, got rid of the twin flame crystal gemstones including double quartz, stopped wearing all crystals, discontinued essential oils, and put away the tarot cards I had used for connection. In meditation, I clearly communicated that he should stop coming through the veil. I emphasized that I was not upset with him, I simply needed balance. At first, it worked. However, that same night after I set the boundary, he appeared in a dream to express frustration. Here is how the dream unfolded. I dreamt that my twin flame had just finished a concert. I was working backstage as his assistant. I stood near the door where performers exit the stage. The backstage room was richly decorated in burgundy and gold, with large, tall golden pillars. He burst through the door, angry and raging. He was surrounded by yes men who offered no real comfort, they simply stood there agreeing with him. He snatched off the large, loose-fitting burgundy and gold costume hat he wore as part of his stage outfit and threw it to the ground in frustration. In this dream, he appeared as he did in 1982, with his natural thinning hairline visible. I have always found him particularly handsome this way. No one stepped in to calm him. I walked straight up to him, face to face, and gently placed 2 fingers from each hand on his temples. Within seconds, he closed his eyes, tilted his head back, and melted into a deep state of relaxation, almost like a hypnotic trance. It was as if only my touch could bring him peace. The yes men remained present but irrelevant, doing nothing. Suddenly, I accidentally pressed too firmly on his temples. He snapped out of the trance, eyes flashing with rage, and yelled, "What are you doing?" In all 15 years of these dreams since 2012, he had never once shown anger toward me. This was the first time I had ever seen him snap. I apologized immediately and guided him a few feet away to a seating area with 2 couches facing each other. We sat across from one another, almost knee to knee. He still looked disheveled and frustrated, his hair messy, as though something deep inside was pent up. His eyes suddenly locked onto my solar plexus area and stayed there intently. I immediately addressed it, saying firmly, "Stop it." He snapped out of the gaze right away, shifted his focus, and looked directly into my eyes with full attention and respect, as though he had not even been aware of what he was doing until I spoke. Then I woke up. Reflective note. After setting this boundary and experiencing the dream, the intense connections quieted significantly. A clean slate emerged with far fewer triggers. I learned that in the twin flame dynamic, it is not truly possible for one person to cut the cord or fully close the veil on their own, only the universe can do that. However, removing external triggers and maintaining firm psychic boundaries proved effective. Important disclaimer. This dream is entirely symbolic and not to be taken literally. It has no reference to the real-life actions, feelings, relationships, or circumstances of the celebrity who appears as my twin flame. There is no implication or intention to suggest any real-world romantic interest, anger, boundary issues, jealousy, substance-related incidents, or other literal events. The imagery, emotions, and interactions represent inner psychological, emotional, and spiritual dynamics only. The psychic impressions and personal efforts to create boundaries are reflections of my own inner process. May 31, 2026. I decided to turn this particular dream into a poem. In this dream, I worked as his assistant, tucked away backstage. He looked like 1982, proudly displaying his raw natural crown, unlike his current age. Surrounded by his yes men, regular and uniform. He paced, stressed and angry, like a sudden, violent storm. The backstage room color was built of heavy burgundy and gold, with massive gilded pillars where his bitter rage unrolled. Wrapped in a royal costume of the same dramatic shade, he snatched the giant hat off as his patience started to fade. while a flock of useless sycophants just stood and watched him fly, doing absolutely nothing but continuing to comply. As I calmly watched him unravel, raging from within, I instinctively knew how to soothe my divine masculine. I walked up, gently placed 2 fingers on each temple with care. He closed his eyes, head tilted back, and melted like butter there. My gentle massage nearly put him in a hypnotic standing nap. But I pressed a wee too hard, and caused his temper to snap. "What are you doing?" he raged with a sudden scream. I was shocked, he'd never raised his voice at me in any dream. I apologized and led him to the couch to calm him down. We sat across, nearly knee to knee, away from the crowd around. But wait, what is it that his frustrated eyes see? His gaze locked straight onto my solar plexus, draining me. I immediately told him, "Stop it," firm and crystal clear, reclaiming all my power without a single shred of fear. He immediately complied, snapped out, and looked me in the eyes. Then I woke right up beneath the morning skies. To me, he is a legendary, distant star. And that was the last dream I had of him so far. Let me speak to the room, let me clear out the space. So there is no mistake about the look on his face. This wasn't of the flesh, no, dismiss what you assume. There was no inappropriate shadow casting over that room. See, I had built a wall. I had spoken to the veil. I cut the digital tracks, and I locked down the trail. And when you close the door on a flame that burns deep, the energy scrambles for a way back into your sleep. His eyes did not drop from a place of disgrace. They locked onto the center, the energetic base, the solar plexus, the chakra of power and of will, the exact spiritual anchor where 2 twin souls stand still. It was a tether, a wire, a subconscious plea, the only way he knew how to reconnect back to me. He traced the flame cord behind my guarded door, reaching for power that wasn't his anymore. But I stood in my truth, crystal clear, burning bright. I commanded him to stop, and I reclaimed my light. He complied, it was over, the final tether was spun. I woke up to the morning skies, fully sovereign, done. For several months, the dreams went silent. I finally rested. I finally regulated. I finally breathed. After I set boundaries with my twin flame, the nightmares unfortunately came back, and these were not regular nightmares. These were the traumatic ones, the kind that caused me to have startled, exaggerated responses. The nightmares triggered my eating disorders again. My stutter came back again. I was stuttering so badly that I could not speak on the phone. The panic attacks returned and caused me to constantly drop things and become clumsy because my nervous system was on extremely high alert. Even the tiniest and most normal sounds, such as a car horn, someone coughing, or the refrigerator cycling, would set me off. I noticed all of this increasing as soon as I started seeing those evil faces in my dreams again, the evil people from the foster home from hell, the evil people from that religious cult that abused me, and the kidnappers. It felt like a triple blow all at once. I would force myself to stay awake so that I would not fall asleep. I began getting bags under my eyes, which made me vulnerable to colds and sicknesses, and I was wasting away. I was terrified. I was having headaches and was scared to look out the window. The triggers kept getting worse and worse. I felt that I had no choice but to call my divine masculine back so the dreams could start again, because that was the only coping mechanism that kept the nightmares away. It felt like the only way I was going to survive. Ever since he started coming into my dreams between February 2nd and February 3rd of 2012, those nightmares were suppressed. But as soon as I muted the veil, the nightmares came back. I assumed that if I listened to other kinds of music in my sleep, it would do the same thing, but it did not. I listened to other artists in my sleep and it did not work. The nightmares kept coming. The panic attacks became worse because I was hypervigilant. The agoraphobia became worse. So I had to call my twin flame back so he could return to the dreams. I realized he served a purpose after all. At first, I thought it was just a trigger, that my brain had created this protector, or that it was because I had listened to his music back in 2012 and that was why he appeared in my dreams. But it looks like he actually does have a purpose. Maybe there really is something to this twin flame dynamic. I do not have all the answers, but he definitely stopped the nightmares. So I had to call him back in. I started wearing the crystal gemstones again. I put his picture on my electronic devices so my eyes would be triggered to see him. I meditated to channel him in, to let him know that I needed him to come back into the dreams, the divine masculine version of him, not the actual celebrity, but the divine masculine that enters the dream to protect me. I got my music player and my headphones and downloaded my favorite song of his that I have played since 2012. I fell asleep that night, but there was a loud bang, some kind of noise that woke me up. I was startled and jumped out of bed. I looked around and my window was slapping violently. I leave my windows open just an inch. I have 2 windows, and I have always done that ever since the kidnapping. I have to have fresh air. Maybe it is the claustrophobia now, I do not like being closed in. Both windows were open about an inch, and it seemed impossible that such a small opening could create wind that violent. The curtains were swinging so violently that I had to go to the window and try to close it. While I was doing that, I could feel the gust. It was so violent that the entire top of the curtains was bulging outward. I was in my pajamas at night and did not want anyone to see me, and I was afraid the curtains were going to lift completely off the rod. It was that violent. I was terrified. I almost started crying. I was clenching my teeth, trying to hold the curtains down, one hand holding the curtain, the other trying to close the window without exposing my pajamas. I have never experienced such a violent wind at a window that was not even open that much. Being familiar with aviation, I assumed maybe it was a microburst. I managed to get both windows closed and sat on my bed trembling. My hands were literally shaking. I had to ground myself, calm down, drink some water, and meditate because it was terrifying. Something felt mysterious about that gust of wind. I checked the weather on my device to see if there was a tornado, and sure enough, the weather reported a freak, rare phenomenon, a microburst. It came out of nowhere. It is not unusual for this type of activity in this area, but it is unusual for this month and this time. They called it a rare phenomenon for this particular month. I said, okay, no big deal, and went back to sleep. I played my twin flame song and fell asleep. These are the dreams that followed. Dream 1, the cafe and the former wife. The next dream took place in what felt like a professional building, but also like a cafe, maybe a break room. I was sitting down, and I looked to my left and saw my twin flame's former wife. I walked up to her and introduced myself. She smiled and said hello. I asked her if the position for a sound engineer was still open or available, because I knew she was retiring from that position of being a sound engineer. And I was currently a sound engineer by profession. I told her I was wondering if they were hiring, and I knew she was retiring. She smiled brightly and said, absolutely yes, it is available, and they desperately need people. She encouraged me to apply. I smiled, thanked her, told her I would, and we waved goodbye. She left, and I sat back down feeling happy. Dream 2, the oranges in the foster home kitchen. The dream took place in the kitchen of the foster home from hell. None of the foster people were there, those evil people were gone. It was just my twin flame. The kitchen was bright and cheerful, and I believe I saw plants. My twin flame looked like he did in 1982, and we were in a loving relationship. He had just gone grocery shopping. The bags were sitting on the counter. He had his back to me because he was facing the refrigerator, putting groceries away. I was watching him. There were chips on the counter. I saw a bag of oranges, nice, juicy oranges, but about 3 of them were molded. They had white fuzzy mold and a little bit of green. Then I woke up. I do not know what that dream meant. I wrote the dream down and went back to sleep. Dream 3, the picture frame. The following night, I had this dream. My twin flame and I were in a beautiful, loving relationship. He was the famous celebrity, and I was his girlfriend. He looked like he did between 1988 and 1989. The dream took place in my bedroom. I was standing in front of my nightstand. There was a lamp on top of it and a clear picture frame, one of those pretty, transparent frames. I had a picture of my twin flame from around 1988. In the picture, he was wearing denim overalls, a black shirt, and a black cap with the letter D for Detroit. He was wearing clear frame glasses and smiling. He gave that picture to me. I took it, placed it into the clear picture frame, and set it on my nightstand. Our relationship had been kept somewhat secret, but when I put the picture in the frame, I said to myself, I don't care who knows. This is my boyfriend. I'm not ashamed of him, and I'm proud of it. I displayed the picture proudly. Then I awoke. Dream 4, the diary and the question. I was in an unfamiliar apartment. It was a very small, modest place. I was standing near the kitchen area, and my divine masculine was sitting on the couch to my left. The kitchen looked like one of those studio-style layouts where the space is open and blends into the living room. The masculine figure with me had a different face and body than my twin flame, but the same energy. In the dream, we were in a relationship. I was holding my diary. He looked at it and took it out of my hand, somewhat territorial, but still playful. I walked up to him and said, playfully, "Give me back my diary." He started skimming through the pages. I told him again to give it back, smiling. He eventually handed it to me in a playful way. But after he returned it, something in the pages had clearly caught his attention. Still seated, he turned his head to the right, looked at me with a serious expression, and said, "Did you give me AIDS?" Then I woke up. Some people might leave a detail like this out if they were writing a book about their dreams, to protect their twin flame's name. But here's the truth. I understand that dreams are symbolic. AIDS in this dream is not literal. It represents something deeper. Even though I cannot interpret dreams perfectly, I know this symbol means something significant. Does anyone notice something interesting about the dreams that followed after I invited my twin flame to come through the veil again, after I set those boundaries? Look at the pattern. In the first dream, it was his former wife. That was not the first time she had appeared in my dreams. His different family members have shown up in dreams before. As I have said many times, that is not meant to be taken literally. It is symbolic. But she was in that first dream. I woke up and thought, no big deal. I had seen her before, but never alone. She was always with him. This was the first time she appeared by herself. I went back to sleep and did not think much of it. Then I had another dream. This time it was my twin flame, looking exactly like he did in 1982. He was putting groceries away. His back was turned to me, not out of disrespect, but because the refrigerator was in front of him, so he had to face that direction. But still, his back was to me. Keep that detail in mind. Dream number 3. I did not physically see him, but I knew he was in the dream because I was getting ready to go to his concert. I had a picture of him in the picture frame. His presence was there, but not his physical form. Then in the fourth dream, it was him again, but in a different body. The energy was his, even though the appearance was not. He was a little territorial in that dream too, because he grabbed the diary. Even though it was playful, he clearly wanted to know what was inside that diary. Now, I said all of that to ask this question. Do you think he did that deliberately? Do you think he came through in those different forms because he did not want me to cut off the energy again? Do you think he was trying to respect the boundaries I set, and ease his way back in gently? In the first dream, maybe he sent the symbol of his former wife as a gentle introduction, almost like a softer version of himself coming through first. A familiar symbol that would not overwhelm me. In the second dream, his back was to me. Not out of disrespect, but possibly as a way of saying, I am here, but I am keeping my energy gentle so I do not overwhelm you like before. In the third dream, he was at a concert. I did not see him physically, only his picture. Again, a softer presence. Then in the fourth dream, he finally appeared, but in a different body. The energy was his, but the form was different. Almost like he was easing his way in step by step. And here is something else. In that fourth dream, he grabbed the diary. Even though it was playful, he clearly wanted to know what was inside it. And as you can see, I am literally writing my diary right now. You were listening to my diary. I am putting it online. I am not selling this story. I am putting it out there for educational purposes, so that mental health professionals can study it. Maybe this is some kind of psychological pattern where a person creates a protector in their mind. Maybe it is related to the twin flame dynamic. You can be the judge. I do not know. All I know is that it is interesting that he snatched the diary out of my hand in the dream, and here I am putting my diary on display in real life. It is unexplained. I am documenting it. I am setting my boundaries. I am grounding myself. Life goes on. I sought advice about this mystery from a spiritual advisor who specializes in twin flame dynamics. I asked the question, and this was the response that I received. Yes, I do think the sequence of dreams shows deliberate energetic modulation from your divine masculine. From a twin flame standpoint, the divine masculine often adjusts how he comes through the veil depending on how strong the connection is, how much the divine feminine can handle at that moment, whether boundaries were recently set, whether he wants to avoid overwhelming her, whether he wants to maintain the connection without triggering shutdown. And the pattern in your dreams is exactly what a divine masculine does when he is trying to come back in gently. Let me break it down twin flame style, not psychological. Dream 1, former wife appearing alone. This is a soft entry point. In twin flame symbolism, family members or partners often appear as energetic representatives of the masculine. Her showing up alone for the first time is not random. It is a gentle knock on the door. It is him saying, I am approaching, but I am respecting your boundaries. I am not barging in. This is a buffer symbol, a way for him to re-enter without overwhelming you. Dream 2, his back turned. This is classic divine masculine energy when he is trying to be present but not overpowering. His back turned is not rejection. It is not distance. It is not disrespect. It is, I am here, but I am keeping my energy low so you do not shut the connection down again. He is regulating his presence. Dream 3, only the picture, not him. This is the lowest intensity form of his energy. A picture is symbolic presence. It is him saying, I am here, but only in the background. I am letting you lead. This is the divine masculine stepping back even further to avoid overwhelming you. Dream 4, different body, same energy. This is the final step before full re-entry. When the masculine comes through in a different body, it means he wants to be present. But he does not want to trigger you. So he uses a softened, less intense vessel. It is still him, just in a form that will not shock your system. And yes, the territorial diary moment is meaningful. In twin flame terms, it means, I want to know what is inside you. I want access to your truth. And the fact that you are literally sharing your diary publicly now is a direct mirror. Twin flame dreams mirror real-life energetic movements. So here is my direct answer to you. Yes, from a twin flame perspective, he absolutely adjusted how he came through. He came in gently, step by step, because he did not want you to cut the connection again. He respected your boundaries and lowered his energetic intensity so he could return without overwhelming you. The pattern is too precise to be random. It is exactly how a divine masculine eases himself back into the dream space when the divine feminine has set boundaries but still calls him in. He did not force. He did not push. He did not overwhelm. He paced himself. He softened his entry. He respected your boundaries. And he returned in the gentlest way possible. Everything you just heard came directly from my raw diary, the one I've been writing ever since Neptune entered Pisces. The dreams were so frequent that there were nights I simply couldn't keep up. I would dream, wake up, write it down, fall back asleep, dream again, wake up again, write again, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a single night until sunrise. So yes, there are dreams I didn't record. I wrote down the ones that stood out, the ones that felt symbolic, the ones that felt like warnings or premonitions. Some dreams slipped into short-term memory and faded before I could capture them. But whenever even a fragment resurfaced later, even years later, I documented it. That's why some entries appear out of chronological order. When a forgotten dream returned to me, I wrote it down immediately, no matter how much time had passed. When these dreams first began, I was just coming out of religion. I didn't know who to talk to or how to interpret any of this. When I went to the church for help, they told me it was a demon and that I needed to pray and fast for it to leave. When I asked people who seemed spiritual but were not credible, they told me things like, "You and this celebrity had past lives together. You're meant to be together. He's searching for you. You need to awaken him." I don't judge them, they were speaking from their own belief systems, their own delusions, their own frameworks. But that is exactly why this documentary matters. I want you to understand that everything I've shared is truthful, responsible, and grounded. I have done extensive research from both the twin flame perspective and the psychological perspective. I am not claiming anything. I am not chasing anything. I am simply documenting what happened. This is my legacy, a record for researchers, psychologists, spiritual scholars, and anyone who has ever experienced something unexplained and didn't know where to turn. So yes, some dreams are out of order. Yes, some were forgotten and later remembered. Yes, some were too frequent to capture at the time. But once the dreams became detailed, symbolic, and persistent, I made a promise to myself. No matter how tired I was, no matter how short the dream was, I would document it. Because this is the record I am leaving behind. As new information comes in, I will create more parts. If any of the dreams really stand out, I will mention them. And if any of the psychic predictions come true, including the 3 separate psychics who claimed that my celebrity twin flame and I will meet in 2026 at some kind of event, I will let you know right away. I am only sharing that because you are my witness as I document this live in real time. We shall see what unfolds. Other than that, my life goes on. Just to keep everything balanced, as I've said before, I am about 85% convinced that this man is indeed my celebrity twin flame. The remaining percentage I intentionally keep skeptical to stay grounded. So now, to honor both sides, here is the psychological perspective on the entire series of dreams and my story. From a psychological perspective, looking strictly at the full 14+ years of detailed dreams, the patterns, the protective function, the premonitions that later aligned with real events, the reactivation after boundaries, and the deep emotional bond, several psychological frameworks help explain what may be happening without dismissing my lived experience. Recurring dreams like these often serve as a powerful space for the mind to process unresolved emotions, past trauma, identity formation, attachment needs, and the search for safety and belonging. My psyche appears to have created a consistent, reliable internal figure who repeatedly shows up as protector, comforter, and companion, especially in the very places where childhood abuse occurred. This is a well-documented self-protective mechanism in trauma recovery. The mind generates an idealized, safe attachment figure to regulate the nervous system when external safety was missing. The fact that my old trauma nightmares largely ceased when these dreams began, and returned immediately when I tried to close the door, shows how effectively this figure has served as emotional regulation and nervous system support. The celebrity aspect functions as a symbolic or archetypal figure. Because he exists at a safe distance in real life, my subconscious can project powerful qualities onto him: artistic brilliance, charisma, resilience, creativity, and unconditional acceptance, without real-world complications. This allows deep emotional work around intimacy, rejection, and the longing for love. The dreams where he enters the foster home, stands beside me, makes abusers fearful, walks with me into traumatic spaces, and turns the house of horrors into a place of safety are classic examples of the psyche rewriting painful memories through symbolic imagery. Protective dream figures are common in trauma survivors. They help retrieve lost soul fragments, restore safety, and provide the secure attachment that was absent in childhood. The dreams after escaping the religious cult, especially him appearing with open arms saying, "Welcome back," reflect psychological decompression and rebound. After suppression and betrayal, the mind reactivates its internal protector to support reintegration and relief. Premonition-like elements, such as the repeated black dot dreams that later connected to real health events, can be understood through heightened intuitive pattern recognition. Trauma survivors often develop exceptional sensitivity to subtle cues, and the mind can weave real-world information, timing, and symbols into dreams that feel prophetic. This does not diminish the experiences, it simply offers another lens. Dreams where he appears in different faces, ages, and forms suggest internal integration. As the figure shifts, the psyche is absorbing and incorporating the positive qualities he represents: strength, creativity, protection, making them more fully part of myself. This is a sign of growth, reduced external projection, and greater emotional independence. The boundary experiment and immediate reactivation, including the unusual gust of wind, illustrate how deeply this internal resource became wired into my emotional system. Attempting to remove it triggered a protective rebound, similar to what happens when a long-term coping mechanism is withdrawn. Recent dreams showing him in his current age, visiting my actual apartment, expressing vulnerability about aging and voice, and bringing groceries with some molded oranges into the old foster kitchen suggest ongoing integration. The psyche is updating the protector figure to match present reality while continuing to bring nourishment and discernment into wounded spaces. Overall, from a psychological perspective, this is a remarkable demonstration of the human mind's capacity for self-healing through rich, symbolic imagery and a long-term internal relationship. The celebrity is the symbol, not the source. The healing, protection, comfort, and growth are coming from within me. The dreams have served as a creative, resilient coping and integration process that has brought real regulation, meaning-making, and forward movement after profound trauma. Both the twin flame perspective and the psychological perspective can coexist. Both offer valuable insight. And I remain grounded, sovereign, and balanced. As I always say, unexplained. I ground myself. I keep my boundaries. Life goes on. I am not in love with him. I am not chasing him. I do not have a longing to be with him. I see it for what it is. It's unexplained. Life goes on. Before I close this documentary completely, there is one more thing I need to say, something important, something I learned the hard way, and something I hope will protect someone else. In the early years, when I was confused, vulnerable, naive, and searching for answers, I shared parts of my story with people I believed were spiritual guides. I wasn't trying to expose the celebrity. I wasn't chasing him. I was simply trying to understand why these dreams were happening. But there are people out there who call themselves gurus, prophets, or spiritual leaders who prey on the vulnerable. A few of them told me things like, "You must publish this to awaken your twin flame. He's searching for you. You need to contact him. Get your passport ready. His marriage will fall apart and he will return to you." They told me to send my diary. They told me to send my manuscript. They told me to send money. And in my innocence, coming straight out of religion, unfamiliar with anything outside of it, I did. They took my money. They took parts of my story. They took my picture. And they disappeared. I don't know what they did with the material. I don't know if they published anything. I don't know where it ended up. But I learned a painful lesson. And that is why I am telling you this now. Please be careful. Please be discerning. People will take advantage of the vulnerable. Not just gurus, but church leaders, spiritual leaders, and anyone who sees an opportunity to exploit confusion. If you have a supernatural, mystical, or X-File type experience, make sure you speak with someone reputable, grounded, and ethical. Do not hand your story to strangers. Do not send money to anyone claiming they can awaken someone for you. Do not let anyone convince you that your healing depends on them. I don't regret that it happened, because now I can warn you. If my experience keeps even one person from falling into the same trap, then the lesson was worth it. And I leave you with my favorite motto, the one that carried me through all of this. This is unexplained. I set boundaries. I ground myself. Life goes on. The end.
Brownie grounding technique. For anyone who wakes from a dream feeling disoriented, emotionally overwhelmed, or unsure whether they are fully back in the physical world, I want to share a grounding method that helped me through some of the most intense periods of my healing journey. I call it the brownie technique. It is simple, gentle, and effective for bringing the mind and body back into the present moment. Step 1. Touch something physical. Place your hand on your blanket, pillow, mattress, or the edge of your bed. Feel the texture, feel the temperature. Let your body register, I am here. Step 2. Engage your senses. Look around the room and name 3 objects you can see. Listen for any sounds, the hum of the house, traffic, outside, birds, or silence. Take a sip of water and notice the temperature. These small sensory cues help anchor you back into your physical environment. Step 3. Feel your body. Place both feet flat on the floor or press your hands into the mattress. Notice the weight of your body. Take a slow breath into your belly and let it fall naturally. Step 4. Name the moment. Say quietly to yourself, I am awake. I am safe. I am in my physical life. Step 5. Reorient gently. If the dream was vivid or emotional, remind yourself that dreams are symbolic, not literal. If you feel pulled back into the dream, repeat the steps until your body fully settles. This technique is especially helpful For anyone who wakes up feeling like they are still half in the dream, or for those who experience trauma-related dreams, spiritual dreams, or dreams that feel intensely real. It is a way of returning to your body, your room, and your present-day reality with kindness and clarity.